Blah.
Hey, all you cool cats out there in YouTube land. This is a viewer disclaimer. The views and thoughts and opinions expressed in this interview do not necessarily reflect those of the host, Jeff Frumess, that's me, or this channel. The host makes no representations to the accuracy, completeness, or validity of any statements made by the interviewee. All content in this interview is provided for conversational purposes only. So, a while back now, I got into contact with Mickey Leigh, aka Mitchell Hyman, the brother of Joey Ramone, who is responsible for all things Joey Ramone related within the entity that is the Ramones legacy currently. And I said, why don't you come on the show? And he said, oh, okay, I'll come on the show. And so he came on the show, and we had a really long talk about a lot of Ramones related topics. It was a great time. I really enjoyed speaking with him. After a little mishigas here and a little mishigas there, we finally got all the wheels spinning, and I am very happy to present it to you now. But it is just the beginning. Mickey is going to be coming back on the show very soon, so keep your eyes peeled for that. In addition, he'll be joined by David Frey, his manager, and we will continue to dissect and discuss Ramones-related affairs.
Okay, so the Fender Rhodes, tell me about that thing. That thing is cool, man.
The Fender Rhodes I got when I was, I guess about 19. I dropped out of high school and took the
GED.
GED.
Yeah.
And I went to Queensboro for a couple of years just to take music.
Yeah.
Music theory, keyboard harmony and stuff. And I bought that because I knew I would need it. It was a lucky find. It was 1972 or so, 71 or something.
Wow.
But that's got to be 60s.
Wow. And they don't make them like that no more.
No, this is what's called a classroom model. I don't have it plugged in, but there's a metronome in it, and you would wear headphones with a microphone. And it's a button that says "Talk to Teacher." So there was a classroom full of those things.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
I don't know where, but that's the classroom model. And it's equipped so that anybody could speak to the teacher.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, that sort of stuff. And what's so interesting is, you can get stuff that emulates this or emulates that through the computer. But at the end of the day, like the original things that sound like, they have a very specific, unique sound that sound the way that they sound, and you can't replicate that to a T, no matter how many emulators or whatever you have. You get close,
right?
But it's not exact. It's not the exact.
Well, some of the like the one Stevie Wonder used, it's got vibrato in it, and effects. This one doesn't have that. It's got the same sound, but it doesn't have the. What do you call that when you buy a car? You get the, or the little extras.
Yeah, like just the deluxe, the
features or something.
The limited trim.
Yeah, there's a name for that stuff. I forgot.
Sure.
But
hi. Okay. So welcome to tonight's show. We have a very special guest who, frankly, I never thought would be on the show. We had Monty on, and that was really cool. And we got to talk to him, and he was around for, the entirety of things. But I'm so fortunate to be able to speak with someone who was there from not only the beginning, but before the beginning. Imagine, if you will, that, the time begins, but imagine there was a time before the beginning of time. And that's the time when, that's when Mickey was around. Mickey was around before there was even a beginning.
When man created God.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, and the thing is, I read Mickey's book when it came out. I've talked about this before. This is a follow-up to, we've been following the story here, okay? We've been following the story about what's been going on. There's been some internal clashes within the Ramones House of the Ramones, like Game of Thrones, House of the Ramones. They should call it House of the Ramones, like a
Still
spin
call it the
HBO.
Ramones Ranch.
Instead of, yeah, there needs to, we have to figure out what the throne would be. Like, they have their
Well,
swords
there's
in the
the
show.
throne too.
Right. But I'm saying, like, there has to be, like, what is the throne? It's a throne of pizza, maybe. That's what it is.
I'm
It's a throne of pizza, something like that.
not sure if you know the throne I'm talking about.
Wait, so
But,
Linda has a throne. Is that what you're referring to?
yeah,
I think I kind of know something. I
I don't
explain.
know if I can show it to you. How can we do
Here,
something?
you can actually. Hold
Yeah,
on. Yeah,
okay.
I'm gonna make that happen for you right now. So, oh,
Yeah,
that's funny. That's funny. Yeah.
that's the
So,
throne. See, there is a throne.
wow,
Yeah.
wowzers.
You thought you were kidding.
Well, there you go. I mean, listen, I've seen this sort of behavior before. Um, so
You have kids?
I do have kids. I do have kids.
That was a joke.
But okay. So there's within the circle of the Ramones, the house of the Ramones, whatever the hell you want to call it, whatever the institution that the Ramones have come. Because here's the reality. The reality is that the guys are gone. Most of the guys are gone, right?
Yeah,
And what remains is, there is the estate or whatever you want to call it. There's an entity that represents the Ramones' interests for all of the many, many fans that are still around and all the new fans that are coming around. And, I mean, in that sort of sphere, somebody has to be representing the Ramones and their interests. And there is a divide that goes back to the band, right? From the time of the band, there, and everybody knows the rift between Joey and Johnny. We've talked about it. We talked about it with Monty, right? And
right.
I have questions. Actually, I wanted to clarify some things that I spoke about with Monty. I want to hear your
Well,
perspective
let
on
me
it.
clarify something right now.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
The
Do it.
rift that you're talking about that
Yes.
started with those guys, I I, I don't have I don't feel like I inherited the rift.
Oh, interesting.
I had no dog in that fight.
Sure.
I felt bad for my brother, but
Sure.
those guys were always like forming these I don't know what do you call them tribes like what do you call it on Survivor
Like clicks. Like
clicks, yeah, and they gang up on one guy, and then the clique would change, and they gang. It was that was those guys. There was always that kind of stuff going on, right?
right. I mean, which is kind of normal to both bands and
Yeah, that's
families, right?
normal for bands. But then there was the other issue, right, with between John and Joey.
Right.
And of course, I felt I knew where I stood on that issue. I know what happened to my brother. He was treated badly. So, but
But
that
you
was
had
that.
you had standing, I mean, you had standing relationship with Johnny, not obviously your brother is your blood, but I mean, you and Johnny were in a band together before
Yeah,
the Ramones. I mean, you go back a ways with Johnny. I mean, you knew Johnny. It's not
I
like you
met
didn't.
John when I was 10 years old.
Yeah,
Asked me to form a band with him when I was 14. He
right.
was 20 or 21. And yeah, so I played in a band with him, and then Tommy came into the band. We recorded a song. So yeah, I go back.
You go back. So it's like, but bottom line, what you're saying is it was there, but it didn't really affect you personally in any sort of way at the
This
time.
one judge in that last mediation in 2018 said this is a Hatfields and McCoys thing. It's going to be a feud, a blood forever,
I
right?
think I read that. I think I read something like
It
that
was
in
in
the
his suggestions or something, and it's everybody wants it to be this Hatfield McCoy thing. I'm it ain't. I mean, I would just want to go on with my life. I don't. I'm not interested in this keeping up this Johnny versus Joey or now me versus Linda because of what they did. I forgave her, and I wrote a post on my brother's Facebook page saying in 2014 or so, there's a picture of us together. She had fired our manager, and things were going to be better now, right? And I put this post on my brother's page. A black cloud has been lifted. Linda and I are going to get along, and things are going to be a lot better for the Ramones and the fans and everybody, right? And a lot of those fans still went on saying, Yoko, Yoko, you know. And I said, listen, if I can forgive her, I think you should be able to, right?
Mm.
So, I mean,
And how did she at the time? How did she like? How did she respond to that sort
she
of?
didn't.
Oh, she didn't at all.
No.
Hmm. Let me ask you this as a sidebar within this topic in this moment. I was asking, I had asked Monty, I was like, I think it was in his book or somewhere, one of the things, somewhere in one of the many things that I've read about the Ramones, this notion that it had gotten so bad between Johnny and Joey that they would literally use an intermediary in front of, like, tell Joey this, tell Johnny
Right.
this within earshot, meaning that they could hear each other
Yeah.
talking, but they couldn't talk directly.
Right.
Is there any, can you speak to
I
this? Is there
couldn't tell
any,
you because
you don't
by
know?
that time, I was not. They wouldn't do that in the dressing room. People say they did that in the van, and
Right,
um, I never was around when the two of them were in the van or like
right.
No, I can't attest to that. But Monty says this, and Monty says that, and Mark says this, and I don't know who do you believe.
Well, that's why I'm just trying to make sense of what's up and what's down.
Right.
And
I
it's
mean,
just,
I don't doubt that they did some things like that sometimes. Monty asked Joey if he maybe he wasn't. I'm sorry, Jeff. I really don't know.
it's a fascinating, it's sort of, I mean, it's many things. It invokes many different emotions, right? Like on many different levels, but there is like sort of from like if you're outside of that, if you're outside of all that, just sort of reading about it as a fan, there's a slight sort of like tinge of amusement of almost like, is this really
Oh, it's
happening?
kind of funny.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, a little bit, but at the same time, I'd imagine if, being more inside or more, around it all the time, it might not be that way. So I want to, be aware of that as well. But just like sort of reading about this and just like kind of chuckling to myself, like, was this these guys like what? Like,
I
how
don't
are
know
you gonna, I don't know.
who did stuff like that.
Right.
No, I guess little kids, right?
Yeah, well, or bandmates that are, it's a band, but it's also, they're not blood related, but they all have the last name, and it's like we're a happy family, me, mommy, and daddy. It's like that kind of
Right.
whatever.
But it's
Um,
more like when you're in when you're your children and you're at home and tell Joey he can't play with my game.
yeah, that's exactly, but
No.
that's why it's like funny and ridiculous, and also
Right.
like, could this really? I mean, these guys are, I mean, they're in this venture together, but there's a wonderful clip on Howard Stern that I really love. I'm sure you've seen that clip,
No.
when they were all together the last time, and Howard says to Johnny, he's like,
Can you look
Johnny,
at
look
it?
at Joey. Yeah, look at Joey. And Johnny's like, Johnny's got like this half
Yeah.
smile. You can tell it's kind of a joke, but it's also kind of serious. He's like, and he makes them turn to each other
Right.
and like admire, like admit, that like, hey, like, thanks for being in the Ramones with me, and like that we did this thing together or something or whatever. It's
Did
kind of
they?
nice.
I don't remember them saying anything to each other.
No, yeah, they like turn and like they acknowledge each other in the clip. They like, there's some words spoken.
I
They're sitting
remember
next to each
Mark
other.
said something like, "I want to thank Johnny for keeping the band going all
Sure,
these years."
sure.
And my brother said, Mark's a real ass kisser."
Yeah, and then that was also, I don't know if that was before or after they had, I mean, Howard really like stoked the fire between
Oh
those
yeah.
two.
Well, that's his
Another
job.
thing was, yeah, but that before that or was that afterwards? I can't remember. That I don't remember.
Before.
What the when Howard was antagonizing both of them to fight each other
Oh,
on
right.
over the phone, was that before or was that after that when they were all together for the last, that was the last time they were all together, those guys.
Was it?
As far, hey, you would know better than me, but as far as I understand, that was the last time that those
I
guys were
thought they did
together.
some kind of record store appearance in or
That was
something.
part of that, but that was, I think that
Oh,
was all part of that because it was for We're Out of Here. They were promoting the
right.
We're Out of Here, which was the final Ramon show, obviously. And I mean, were you surprised? Were you surprised when they announced they were going to hang it up finally? Was that
No,
like you were
no,
not surprised? You
no.
it was
My brother. I mean, even though there's people who say he wanted nothing to do with me. We never spoke for I don't know the whole last millennium, but and certainly not this millennium. But we were talking, and he told me about this tour that they were talking about doing in South America, and it was going to be a lot of money, but
a
that each
million dollars, $1 million.
something like that. I don't
Yeah,
know if that was $1 million each, or I don't know. I don't think so, but and he was telling me he just didn't, he wasn't feeling good, you know, and that John, and that they were all pressuring him, and I said, listen, just tell him, screw you.
yeah.
You know, if you don't think it's gonna be good for your health, if it's gonna make you worse, don't do it.
Marky was pissed. I think I do not. I take that with a grain of salt. I just want to say, obviously, I'm not as well versed as you, so I'm not 100%. I believe Marky was. I read somewhere, maybe it was in his book actually.
I,
Marky was really upset. There
I think
was,
CJ too.
yeah.
And I
I mean,
think they
listen,
all
it's a lot of money.
want money, but somebody's life and health.
Showing up for finally, speaking up for himself and showing up for his own,
Right, right,
health and
right.
well-being and must have been a very
He,
very pivotal moment in Joey's.
he gets intimidated. He got intimidated easily, my brother. So
Yeah,
I know he was. I could tell he was. Not sure if he could pull the trigger and say, "I'm not doing it." And
right. Like people pleasing, like that wants to,
the
please someone.
pressure, I guess,
Yeah,
all of them saying, you took it like you're taking money out of my pocket,
yeah,
um,
yeah.
and so that's what he was up against. I just said, "Don't do it, man."
So, but to get to circle back to what we were discussing. So I was doing a show on my YouTube channel, sort of reveling in this document that I came across on the internet of CJ giving a testimony of some kind, or what'd you call it? A what? What's it called?
Declaration.
Thank you. A declaration that was, it was just incredibly shocking to read. I'm assuming you read it as well. How did that make you feel when you read that document?
Shocked. I was shocked, like you say. I couldn't believe it. Um, I just I didn't understand why he would want to put himself in that position. You know, um, he's a guy that's been coming and playing with me at these Joey Ramone birthday bashes for 6, 7, 8 years, putting our arms around each other. At the end of the show, and going out for drinks or whatever. Now saying that,
Did you now after you read that document, did you try reaching out to him and be like, dude,
no,
what's going on? Like, what gives?
no.
No,
What's the
didn't even
point?
bother.
You know,
Mm.
um, I don't even know if I'm allowed to do that legally by law. I'm not sure, but what am I going to say?
I guess there really is nothing to say. I guess what was said is said in, I guess what was said was said. It was said in a legal document. I mean,
Right.
literally, right?
I
Like,
don't think you can say, "Well, I didn't say that," or and what am I going to say? Like, why? Why'd you do that?
yeah.
You
I
know,
mean,
he's going to answer me.
no, probably
I
not.
mean,
Probably,
to
I
me,
mean, I think that, when you speak like that in when you say something like that, you say something. I mean,
Yeah,
you're saying what you're saying.
right. I mean, anything I guess I would ask him is what will be asked in a courtroom,
Right.
and better there.
So what is like, I mean, so what is the intention?
I just didn't understand why he would put himself in that position. Or Mark either. Mark Stutton took me on a tour uh, to sing with his band in 2005 in South America and some other things. Um, he says in Monty's book some pretty harsh things.
Mickey,
Yeah.
what exactly was said in Monty's book? I don't remember.
Okay, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Marky, quote, the animosity between John and Joey was intense. John was cheating with Linda behind his back, going up her dress in the tour bus while Joey is sitting there. Linda had no regard for Joey and didn't seem to realize what could happen if they continued this in front of him. Now, this is in Monty Melnick's book.
It's crazy.
Yeah, John was cheating with Linda behind his back, going up her dress in the tour bus with Joey sitting there.
I mean,
Linda
it's
had no
crazy.
regard for Joey, didn't seem to realize what could happen if she continued this. And now he's testifying on her behalf.
Well, question. I mean, that was the piece. So here's the piece that I'm not exactly aware of. It's on my understanding that Markey has also, made a declaration or testified or whatever the hell you want to call it, on behalf of Linda. But I don't know what was said or anything. Are you like, what happened? Like, what did he?
He's saying that Linda should be running. I don't know. She likes to use this word "in charge" all the time. Linda should be in charge. That's what it says in Marky's declaration, which is public. So I'm not divulging anything confidential.
I It's funny that sort of went under the radar. I would have been, I was keeping my eyes peeled for that stuff. That kind of ran under the radar about Markey. It's very interesting too because, Markey and CJ, they don't get along either, right? Like they're not
Idea. Well, well, something about who CJ married. I'm not sure.
right. Like they're technically related through family by marriage, or they were. He married his niece. CJ married his
He
niece.
married Marky's niece. Right.
Right. And
Right.
yeah.
But why, I
Um,
don't know why they're what the problem was with that.
in a world where there are no more like Ramones, like the Ramones are gone, and you have Marky and CJ and Richie out there, you would think, and they all love playing music and they're all out there, you would think that they would band together in some tasteful way that makes sense, tastefully,
Right.
and just do a set of Ramones songs because people want to hear them. And it's like the fact that these three guys play separate from each other, it blows my mind. Like I would imagine that, CJ and Marky, and I'm sure the guarantees or whatever, like it'll be good. Marky's very good at branding. He's very good at Marky Ramone's Blitzkrieg. Like that really puts it
Well,
out there.
it's spaghetti sauce and all that stuff. Yeah.
I have this. Okay, check it out though. He came, so
It actually was not bad.
it
He
was
gave
not
me two
bad.
jars. It was all right.
You know what? He came to Hartsdale, which is right down the street from me, at Chef Central, doing the pasta sauce. He had a demonstration going on, and I was like, Marky Ramone is like, not even 10 minutes from my house. Of course, I'm going to go and buy a jar of pasta sauce
How
and get my
much
picture
was it?
taken. It was like, I don't know, it was probably like $10 or something or something, whatever.
Reasonable. That's reasonable. Yeah.
You know what? It was the novelty
Yeah, right.
of posing with Marky Ramone's pasta sauce, and I love it's sitting right over there. It's behind a bunch of stuff. I can't get to it. I have the empty jar. It says drumsticks not included on the
Ah,
on the thing,
right.
and I mean, whatever. It was. I mean, it's kind of hilarious.
I
A
have
little
nothing
campy.
against market, really.
Yeah. No. 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 I think
But
it's.
these guys are always looking to have some kind
It
of
doesn't make sense. It
yeah.
doesn't make sense. Again, like
I'm not part of that. I'm a part of this feud, this ongoing feud. I could care less about it, you know. I'm just trying to do what's right for my brother and his band, you know.
Right. And when you actually do look at the things you've done, like looking when I like take a look, when I take inventory of the stuff that you've done, you know, you put out your brother never got a chance to write a book. It was not possible for him to write a book because he passed away.
Well, he could have
You
written one before he passed away.
Yeah, but like, you know, he didn't have nothing came out. All the other Ramones have a book. It's like it makes sense that there
Tommy
is
didn't have a book.
Tommy
And
didn't have a book actually. That's right.
Beatty's books are, you know, they're kind of
He's spacey, but well, no,
they're fiction, pretty much.
his one book is his one book is his account written in his words, right? Of how he saw things, whether fiction or not. And, you know, at least got to put something out.
Right.
Johnny put something out.
I'm
And, you
not too
know,
sure about that, but
well, Johnny had something written. Johnny had
he
something
he
written.
did interviews that were supposed to be transcribed, and that's how that book was supposed to be done. But the original person he was doing that with, um, there was some kind of issue, and that didn't happen. I mean, that's why the book came out, what, like 7, 8 years after he passed away.
Henry Rollins had a
Henry
hand in it.
Rollins wound
Didn't he
up,
do something with the book? He was doing something with the book.
he edited it. He was
Oh,
the
he was the
editor.
editor. He was the
Yeah.
editor. Yeah.
So here's Henry Rollins deciding what Johnny's going to be saying, basically, right? Or Linda and Henry.
Huh.
There's all this interview material. Somebody has to decide, just like when I wrote my book. There were
Sure.
interviews. I had to decide what part of it you're going to print, right?
Yeah.
Well, Johnny obviously couldn't make that decision.
No, he could not.
So Linda and Henry Rollins made that decision. And
Hmm.
I'm not, oh, well, there's a few funny things, but the one, this one funny thing, when I put out my brother's second solo album, you know,
Yeah.
Henry Rollins did this piece in the LA Weekly, like ripping me to shreds for, the headline is Joey Ramone's legacy is in danger. And then he goes on about how I put this album out after he died, and how do I know what he would have wanted on it exactly? And I'm saying, holy shit, this guy is is deciding what Johnny's going to say, right? And he's getting on my case for finishing with Ed Stasium, one of his best friends and a producer of many Ramones albums.
Yeah, I know Ed. I
Um,
don't know him, but I know of him, of course.
right. So it was in good hands, and um, but he's going off in this article about how dare I how do I know what Joey would have wanted, you know, how does he
Well, I mean,
what
again,
Johnny would
here's
have wanted?
yeah, but you want to know something? Again, like here's the thing, and this is what I get part of my statement, the statement that I would made as we're going into this sort of subject matter is that like the things that you've done for, I mean, you essentially are, you know, the arbiter of your brother's legacy, and your brother is the type of public figure that needs his legacy looked after. And the two things you've done, you took some of his material that he initially was not, you know,
We
was
don't know
edited
that,
out, whatever.
Jeff. I mean,
Oh, you don't know that.
he was not finished with that first solo album.
Right, but meaning that I read somewhere that those were songs that he
Right.
didn't want, that he initially was not going to leave on the thing or
We don't
something.
know.
Hmm.
He might have decided to take one of those off and put
The
one
point,
of the other ones in.
either which way, it's an
Oh, I know
inconsequential
you've
point.
seen those articles that Joe, those are the songs. How dare he put that stuff out? That's what the stuff Joey didn't want out.
Right. That well, that's
Why
what
would he even make demos of those songs if he didn't like them at all?
I mean, here's the thing. Like, listen, I'll be honest with you, Mickey. When that did originally come out, I had read some of those articles and I was like on that bandwagon of like, yeah,
Right.
like what the hell? But I've come around, and here's why I came around. I came around because at the end of the day, it's inconsequential. Joey Ramone isn't here anymore, and there are people that want to hear Joey Ramone's music. And why should it not be out? Like, why should it be kept from, it's like, what good does it do sitting in a closet as opposed to
Yeah.
being out there in the
What
world?
my justification is, I believe he would have done the same for me if it was the other way
Hmm.
around.
So there
I've
you
got
go.
demos I haven't finished. And, maybe if he would have done that and made sure they sounded great,
Either which way, I think it's a valid posthumous release considering the fact that he's not around. He can't make any more music, and there's music that's just sitting around not being in people's ears.
right.
And
And they're great,
ultimately,
and they're great songs. Why, there's New
yeah,
York City. There's a song "Waiting for That Railroad" that make people love it.
at the
His
end of the
fans
day,
love it.
yes, and at the end of the day, you are choosing to, what's it called? You're choosing to memorialize your brother how you want to memorialize him. And that makes sense. So like I said, I came around after a while. I came around
Good,
on
I'm
that.
glad.
And, I see, I can appreciate that. I really do. I can appreciate that.
Good
And
that,
now some people came to you and were like, hey, we want to turn the book that you wrote about your brother. Again, your brother did not get to write a biography, so this is the next closest thing that we're going to get to. And mind you, I don't think anybody's really written a book about Joey Ramone outside of your book. Are any other Joey Ramone books been written?
not that I know of. I
Yeah,
don't think
so
there's any books about any of them individually.
not individually, collectively, yes, but
Right.
individually, no. So,
No.
that's why it's nice that, I mean, it's a crime that there's no book to represent Tommy, but that everybody else does have something that at least represents him. Whether it's Henry Rollins and Linda editing it or not, I am glad that there is a commando book as opposed to nothing. I do want to hear Johnny's perspective, whether I agree with it or not. I want to hear what's interesting about reading all the different points of view, as you call Dee Dee's book fiction, and and Marky has his
But
book
it's
and stuff.
entertaining. I'm not
Entertaining,
saying,
whatever.
yeah.
As Stephen King once said, when confronted with the myth or the truth, always go with the myth or whatever.
Yeah.
Like because it's more entertaining. Like
Uh, so,
it's interesting to see all of their different points of view about similar things from their own perspectives. And if you're able to sort of take that stuff in from that within that context with that grain of salt, it makes it interesting to
yeah.
sort of read. You know what I mean?
Uh, I don't know. There's just things in John's book that I guess,
Sure.
you
I'm
know,
sure.
I don't know if they put it in personal, intentionally to get a dig at me, but there's a passage in John's book where he talks about um, his first girlfriend.
I will say that, are you talking about the girl that I had heard like very harrowing stories about his relationship with his first girlfriend, or was it Roxy, maybe was her
But
name?
that was his girlfriend while he was with his wife.
While he was with his wife.
Yeah,
Oh, she wrote a book too, actually.
she
You know
did.
what? She reached out to me. She saw one of
Well, you
my
should have her
videos.
on.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, see, that's the problem that some of these people got uh, alienated.
Yeah.
Th- th-
Steamrolled.
Those guys like to cut people out of things, and
You're on the inner circle until you're on the outer circle.
yeah, but there's somebody who probably doesn't want mention of Roxy.
So what she claims that she had been in contact with Johnny all the way up until he like died or something, allegedly,
She
something
said
along,
he was still seeing her until 1992.
or maybe that's what it was. That's what it was. Yeah. They had been seeing each other for some time after, allegedly, supposedly. I don't know.
Right.
Um,
I don't doubt
Interesting.
it, but I mean, because John, that's the girl that John got into a big fight with, not with, but over when he almost got killed that
In
time.
1984, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah, he almost got
83. It was 83.
83.
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of like that? That's what like sort of like flowed into Too Tough to Die because
Uh,
he got knocked in the head with a chair. No, he got knocked in the head real bad. His skull was cracked open or
yeah.
something,
Yeah. His skull was cracked open.
and he had short
Um,
hair. He had to cut off all his hair and
well, you
stuff.
had brain surgery. Yeah.
That's crazy. Did you
But
notice?
that was a fight over that girl,
Hmm.
over Roxy, and this was after Linda left my brother. So
Oh, interesting.
that I don't know. That kind of says something to me. You know. Um,
Um, did you notice a difference in Johnny after he had his head injury? Did he change in personality at all?
for a little while.
Huh.
Um, but then probably not much more.
Hmm. That's
I'm
interesting.
looking for that quote, but
I
it went
really like Too
away.
Tough to Die a lot. I think it's a great record. I think it's a
Yeah, it
really
is.
great record. In fact, what's interesting is you get some really weird songwriting combinations, and all of a sudden Johnny and Dee Dee are writing together, which was not something. I mean, it's my
Well, that
understanding. Sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
they started writing again together since the very early days when they all wrote together.
So in the early days, Johnny had a hand in writing the songs.
Yeah, they
Hmm.
actually in those days they would all sit around together and write songs
And
together.
then at some point, like Joey and Dee Dee sort of split off and
Um,
started bringing
well, they
stuff
were
in.
always writing their songs individually, um, as well as with everybody. I mean, my brother wrote "Beat on the Brat." My brother wrote uh, um, "I Don't Care," and "Here Today, Gone Tomorrow" before the Ramones formed.
Here's a crazy question for you regarding that. Now, it's my understanding your brother wrote songs on a two-string guitar,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Which always floored
Well, no,
me.
no, wait a minute. You see, that's the weird thing. I mean, I saw some interview with Tommy, um, and he knows better, but he says, Joey was somebody gave him a two-string guitar, and Joey realized that if you play the tonic in the fifth, like my brother knew what a tonic and a fifth was, you know, somebody gave him a guitar, and he figured it out. That he was playing my Yamaha six-string guitar, and he asked me if I could teach him how to play. Right? He's left-handed. I'm
Hmm.
right-handed, so I said, I don't know. He said, we'd have to switch the strings every time you want to play it. And I know there's this guy Richie Havens. I don't know if you're familiar with him,
The name is familiar. Yeah.
but he would play with his thumb over the two bottom strings, and I knew that the when you play that way, it's the tonic and the fifth. So I could maybe show you if you
Yeah,
want
show it. Do
to.
it. Do it. Yes. We're getting a demonstration, everyone.
All right.
Excellent.
I showed him how to play Alice Cooper's 18 because he'd been listening to that like 20 times a day.
Now I can't hear it. Damn. That's annoying.
18. So I teach him how to that. And he gets that pretty quick because it's pretty easy to play an
Mickey,
18.
Mickey, I'm so sorry. It's so
Oh,
frustrating because for a
I
second I
hear
could
it.
hear you playing and then I can't hear you playing. It's like so crazy. It goes in and out.
It's the noise gate.
It's just go ahead. Continue with your
All
demonstration. Go
right.
ahead.
Um, so doing Alice Cooper's 18. 2 days later, I come in to the house and he's playing the same chords. But he's singing, I don't care. I don't care. Right? That's
Wow.
so that's how he started. Somebody didn't give him a two-string guitar. I gave him a Yamaha acoustic and told him to play the bottom two strings. Eventually, the other strings came off after I gave the guitar to him. I don't think he took them off. Maybe they broke.
Listen, I don't know, but as in my imagination of hearing you talk about this, I imagine that maybe the strings broke. And as you said, he's just learning. He's like, I don't know how to change the strings. I'll just keep, it's like the stubborn aspect of like, I'm going to keep doing this, even
Right.
though I don't know how to fix the strings. I'll work with what I have,
Well, yeah.
which is
He
so
didn't
punk
need those
rock.
other strings, you know? He didn't need them. And he wrote I Don't Care. Then he wrote that song Here Today, Gone Tomorrow.
Amazing.
Wrote probably with the same chords. Just wanna have something to do tonight.
Wow.
Tonight. You know, most of and um, I have to worry about this because this is one of the charges against me, but I'm not trying to take credit for those songs.
I think that it's worth noting.
Hey, I just had to hit the pause button for a moment to let you know that your favorite riotstickers.com deal is back. That's right. You can get 1,000 stickers for $79. You're not going to find a better deal for stickers. These stickers are 3 by 3 inches. They are vinyl based and they have a special UV coating that protects them from the sun. And like I said, you can get 1,000 of them for $79. Just go to riotstickers.com/Frumess. That's FRUMESS. Link is down in the description and you can get your stickers. That's with free shipping and handling. CEO Sharpie Riot, he knows what he's doing and he will take very good care of you. So please, when you need stickers, banners, t-shirts, anything that you need something printed on, go to riotstickers.com. Why? Because they are the bomb. It's not a matter of taking credit. It's the reality is that you were you were there in a variety of ways facilitating creativity that led to your brother doing what he did. That's how
Yeah.
you have to that's how you have to contextualize this. It can't be, and the reality is you are Joey's brother and you showed him how to fucking play guitar. I mean, what else
I showed
like
him, it's luck, I guess, in a way, but I figured out a way to show him how to play a righty guitar, and he's a lefty, and use the
right.
song that he was so familiar with, and that enabled him to do what he did.
Right. But the point is that I'm not going to sit here and you can't, that can't be held against you in the way that maybe you're being accused of either.
Well, it's not only if I say it.
Yeah, but you're telling the story, you're clarifying you're deconstructing the myth
right.
behind the two
You know,
string guitar.
in CJ's declaration,
Yeah.
he mentions the song Pinhead, that I'm trying to take credit for the song Pinhead, right?
Hmm.
I can't really get into why he picked that particular song, but there's an issue about it because a guy was making a documentary about Schlitzie the Pinhead, right?
Yeah.
And he asked me to come and talk about the Ramon song Pinhead, and he asked Monty also. And I told him the story about how you know Pinhead came about. That we were in Cleveland. The show got canceled. We saw that Freaks was playing downtown, so we all went to see Freaks. Doing the wedding chant, he's on the table. I don't know if you know the movie,
I
but
do.
he's singing "Google Gobble Gingo
Yeah,
Gobble,"
one of us, one of
right?
us.
And we were all laughing. And I turned to John and said, "You guys should make a song out of that, like an audience participation song. You know, you could maybe have the words scrolling across the bottom of the stage or something, right?" And that was it. And I said, and then a couple few weeks later they wrote the song, and I'm being accused of taking credit for writing the song.
I mean, again, like I've read in many different books, again, and I said this in my last, my unbiased appraisal of the CJ Ramone document that I read online. When the Ramones called you, you always came to be in service of the Ramones. You did it. You did what they needed you. They needed you. They needed help with a guitar solo, or they needed help with this or that. You did it. I mean, at the end of the day, as we said at the beginning of this video, you were there at the beginning, and you were there before the beginning. You're there. You're enmeshed. You're enmeshed. You're
Yeah,
enmeshed in the story. You can't go back and rewrite the
but
story because it doesn't suit you. It's just the story is the story.
right. But you know,
And
even had argue with Monty because uh, Monty was liking to say that he was at every single show of theirs. And
yes,
this
he
caused
that's
a
written in his
problem at that
book.
Grammy Museum Award. There was a panel.
Yeah,
I had to say to Monty, listen, if you're going to say you were at every show and I'm going to be sitting right there, don't expect me to just sit there and let you say that because I worked about 20 to 25 shows totally by myself. Monty was not there.
interesting.
Right. So
Interesting.
I said, if you're going to say that, I'm going to have to say something, right? And then the moderator, when he's introducing Monty, he said, "And now, ladies and gentlemen, a man who was, and get this, at every single show of theirs," and Monty comes out. But then when he says it again, when we're all sitting out there, I say, well, he wasn't really at every single show. And the guy goes, "Oh yeah, yeah, all right, well, we'll get back to you. Go away, Sonny." You know,
Did how did Monty respond?
he said, "Well, I wasn't at every show, most of them.
Monty's
It's
such a
on
character.
YouTube.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
gotta see that. I haven't
yeah.
seen that. What year was
Um,
that? What year was that? Do you remember?
2016.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. To get back to the two string guitar though, what's interesting about that is it's just kind of the notion of, or going back to my original question, which started us on this whole long tangent about it. Do you think that no matter how he got the two strings on the guitar, do you think that the two strings somehow, like, what am I trying to say here? That it somehow became synonymous, folded into this sort of um, minimalist, like the brilliance of the minimalism of what the Ramones were.
I,
Does that in part come from writing songs on two strings, however which way you come about getting those two strings in the first
sounds
place?
logical to me,
Yeah, that's
right?
interesting, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I never thought about that before, but yeah, you're probably right. I mean, the fact that
you never thought about that before,
no,
and
that not that contributed to the whole minimalist bare bones thing
Wow, that I feel good about that then,
because
because you've probably been asked every single kind of Ramones question on the friggin' face of the planet,
right,
and
nobody's asked that.
damn, I feel
Good,
whoa.
good
Hey,
point.
Jeff,
But
pat on the
I never
back,
thought of
Jeff.
it because he wasn't playing guitar in the band,
Right, right, but like it's the idea of
of
like
how the songs were structured.
yeah, just
Yeah.
that in the same way that mother is or no, not that necessity is the mother of invention,
Right.
but just the idea like of it's kind of a beautiful sort of metaphor for finding a way to be creative within the box that you're in, and your brother, for whatever reason, you might even want to say, and again, if this is the wrong wording, please correct me here and now. But, have you heard of this word of like executive functioning? Are you familiar with that concept?
No.
I suffer from functioning, the lack of executive functioning. The idea that like for me it's ADHD, and it's the idea that like, I can be incredibly disorganized sometimes in my life. And I wonder if your brother had some sort of lack, like the idea that like, hey, I should call someone to change these strings on the guitar because they're all breaking. But instead, like, nah, I'm just gonna play the strings I got. I'll just work with what I got. And sort of, so
Well,
this
after he'd
idea,
written three or four or five songs that way, I think he knew he didn't need the other strings.
I mean, that's like that. There's something really magical. It's something so magical to me in that. And then that ultimately is the kernel of this notion, no matter whatever you think about this notion, the notion that wherever these guys went, they would play a town and then a bunch of bands would sprout out. And this idea of like, of sort of spreading this notion of, hey, man, there's like beauty and creativity in the simplicity of trying to do something on your own in your own kind of way, and like go out there and do it. And that it all kind of stems from that guitar and
Huh.
the two strings. Pretty cool. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Um,
Yeah, I
I
don't
guess,
know.
but like, yeah, nobody really knows about that part of it much. But it's also it's the way they had their whole thing structured with John just playing basically the bottom notes of a power chord,
Hmm.
and all everything down picking and the hi-hat going with the pulse of the picking and the bass. Tommy kind of
Did Ed Stasium play solos from the side of the stage for Johnny?
no, but little Matt Loyola, the roadie, did
Wow. Because
behind the
I know Walter Lure was Walter Lure would come in and do.
he did a lot of stuff in the studio. I
Yeah.
don't know if he ever did anything at a live show.
Right, right. No, but in the studio, Walter
Yeah,
Lure came in and did a lot of guitar work. And it's interesting to me for a guy like Johnny, that I mean, that's what's so interesting about his character and his psyche. The idea of like, this is my role in the band, this is who I am, but I have no scruples about somebody better than me, and with the better skill to come in and do the job the way that it needs to be done, and that he could step aside and allow Walter to like do it. And listen, it's not like it was kept top secret. It was just
right,
sort of like a thing that you either knew about or you didn't, right? Like,
right.
so it got very interesting because a lot of, you would imagine that a lot of people who would be in Johnny's position would want to keep that under lock and key. Like, no, I'm the guitar player of the Ramones. I'm the only one that does the Ramones guitar. But that didn't.
I don't think that would have worked because he would never play any of that stuff live.
Right. I mean, it was like kind of like if it was supposed to be a secret, it would be a worse kept secret because he's not going to be able to. I mean, he's sitting
Right,
there. You could see so much brain power just going into doing the part on California Sun.
right.
The it's like all of his bandwidth, all of his brain power was going to just getting that little bit just right.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. But he did it, and
Yeah, of
I give
course.
him
What he
credit
did, he
for
did well. What he
he
did,
did
he did
he did
brilliantly. This.
amazing with the little bit
Yeah.
that he did.
Yeah, 100%. And and that's the other thing too. Kind of like it's kind of very similar to Doyle from the Misfits, who, credits Johnny Ramone's signature downstroke, which is, I mean, you're a guitar player. I'm not. It's like an incredibly difficult thing to do. That right?
It's not that difficult, really. That's
Yeah,
kind
but
of.
you're saying that because you're a good guitar player. I mean, like
But I know
anybody,
how I did it. It's just a matter of repetition, you know?
right? But for the average, okay, for the average mediocre middle of the ground guitar player, even someone who might be a virtuoso in some way, like look at like a great jazz, like some great jazz player is going to sit there and do that rudimentary, simplified, down pick buzzsaw thing. They're not going to be able to do it.
They would be able to if they really wanted to, you know? I don't believe, some of those great guitar players can't
Yeah,
just go,
you got to hold it up though. Hold up the guitar so we can see. Yeah, well, we can't hear it, but it's still. They see the movement.
you see the movement. Can't hear it.
I can't hear it. You got
You
to
know,
hold it up
I told
higher.
you that when I was starting a band with John,
Yeah.
I was going to be the bass player. He was going to be the guitar player. And he had a Gibson SG, and we were, just in my house listening to stuff and talking about Led Zeppelin. And I said, let me see your guitar. And I started playing.
Is that communication breakdown? I can't hear it.
Yeah, it's communication
Yeah.
break. Yeah.
It really is. It is amazing. I don't know when it was a few years ago. Communication breakdown can't, because nobody thinks of Led Zeppelin as punk.
Right.
But, it was on the radio. It came on the radio. And I was like beside myself for a moment because going, God damn, does that song fucking rip? Like that song is punk as fuck. And it's like
Communication
not,
breakdown, especially, right?
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
communication breakdown. But you know what else is punk as fuck? Even though it's not considered. I mean, some people consider it to be proto punk. John Lennon's bass playing on Helter Skelter is so punk.
John Lennon's?
John Lennon is playing bass on Helter
Really?
Skelter, not Paul
Oh,
McCartney.
I didn't
Yeah.
know that. Huh.
Yeah, that's John Lennon doing that dun 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 dun. Go listen next time, put on White Album, listen to Helter Skelter and listen to John Lennon's. And people all the time are like, well, this was punk before punk. No, this was punk before that. I'm like, dude, go listen to Helter Skelter. Listen to how heavy, like just how utterly heavy Helter Skelter is. Listen, it's not even necessarily the heaviness. And of course it's heavy and it's got low end. It's just the attitude of how
Yeah.
he's plunking that bass. And that's punk before punk, man. Like in
Yeah.
some way, shape, or form. It really is. And obviously, before the Ramones, the Beatles were the Ramones before the Ramones, man. I mean,
Listen
fuck it.
to Get Back. Yeah.
Right. The beginning part.
Yeah.
Did you see, question, you watched the Disney documentary,
I
right?
didn't. I still haven't seen it.
What?
I
Mickey.
know. I
Mickey,
know.
what the fuck, man? Dude.
Yeah. I'll
He's like, no,
accept,
Jeff,
I'll accept
don't,
throw rocks,
oh.
throw bottles and cans. Yeah.
No, okay. The reason why I'm
My
bringing that up,
favorite band, and I haven't seen it.
that I want to ask you about that in 1 second. But the reason why I'm bringing this up, this is a bit of a spoiler, but it's not. What's amazing about that is there's a moment because they're under incredible pressure to get these new songs together. And you watch Paul McCartney, they captured it on tape.
That is the one part I saw.
You saw that where he is literally, he's
Get
reaching.
Back, it was, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's reaching inside of his soul. He's
Right.
literally reaching inside from somewhere deep within him. And he's like, I got to come up with something like right on the spot. There are cameras on me. There are bright lights. I'm feeling all this fucking pressure. John's on fucking heroin. George is pissed off. Ringo isn't talking. And he sits there and he just goes, he just fucking figures it out on the bass right there, and you literally watch him pull the song out of thin air, and it makes you emotional because you just go, oh my God, like you're watching the process of creativity from one of the greatest songwriters who ever lived, just like pulling the song out of nothing. It's just it's shamanic, man. It's friggin' like wizardry or something. I don't know.
You know, I've written a few songs, and sometimes that happens.
It
Sometimes
happens,
you
right?
get lucky, and it just
It flows out.
Yeah. Then there's other songs you start, and you know this is too good toss out, but you don't come up with anything else for it for years, you know.
And you're like, it's like when you try to force it, it doesn't come. And when you don't force it, it just flows.
Right. Exactly.
That is very, very strange. You saw the Beatles live.
No, I didn't.
You did, what your brother did.
No, he didn't either.
You know what? I got to tell you, Mickey said to me before we did this, he's like, "Hey, should we wait a little bit longer and you could reread the book? Because I haven't read it since 2009." And I said, "No, no, 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 no. Let's just go. I'll thumb through the book." And you want to know something? I'm going to now, because after speaking to you, I'm inclined to A, reread the book, and B, have you back on again to
Sure.
specifically discuss the book and the things in the book. I remember something about, I guess it was John throwing rocks at the
Right.
Beatles in Shea Stadium, which is, like
I think what you're thinking about is when they were playing at Forest Hills Tennis Stadium, which is like 4 blocks down
yeah,
where I live now, but a little further from where we used to live.
yeah.
And they would, over Queens Boulevard, the Boulevard of Death, they
Hmm.
would have these big banners of who was playing at the tennis stadium. And we saw the Beatles were going to be playing there, and we really wanted to go, but it was smack in the middle of the summer, and our parents were sending us away to sleepaway camp.
Oh,
So we missed it.
fuck.
We missed it. Yeah.
I told this to Mickey. I'm going to repeat it here for the sake of this show. A story that a good friend of mine told to me about Mickey's brother. He approached Mickey's brother after a Ramones show, and he walked up to Joey. I don't know. I don't remember the exact. I guess maybe Joey had his back to him, and he was just walking somewhere. Probably going back to the green room or something. And he approached Joey, said, "Hey, Joey," and Joey's like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Joey, why don't you guys cover the Beatles?" And Joey's response is, "You can't mess with perfection. You just can't." I love that
Yeah.
that was the response, and it's beautiful, beautiful thing.
Well, they were perfection for us. Yeah.
They really
They
are,
they
man.
changed our lives like nobody
Mm,
else, you know.
sure, sure. Um, so to get back to sort of circle back to more contemporary pressing matters and whatnot. How soon after CJ's declaration did you find out about Marky's, or did you know that Marky was already doing a declaration
At,
of
at
his
the
own?
same time, when they
Oh,
submitted their complaint,
so they did it together. That's interesting.
yeah, there were declarations from Mark, CJ, Claudia Tianen, Tommy's girlfriend,
Okay, I'm not familiar with her.
and Seymour Stein, who's no longer with us. But
He gave a declaration on behalf of Linda.
yes,
Wow.
before he died.
So, and then I don't know if you can speak to this, and if you can't, please, totally understandable. Has Richie given any declarations himself at all?
No, he hasn't.
No. Interesting. And most recently, Richie has been, it was in the news, and I was going to talk about it, and I said, you know what, let me talk to Mickey before I discuss this news. I would much rather speak to Mickey about it first, since
It's not that complicated, as you know. Um, a result of one of this recent arbitration was Linda wanting to get my manager removed,
right,
which she did, right?
right.
But it's a weird situation as manager, director. Um, he's a manager, but he was also a director. So each side had to have two directors in any corporation. I'm, yeah, I got to be careful,
Sure.
giving
I'll
away.
tell you what, allow me from what
Oh, I
I've
could say
read.
this.
Okay.
It's in the news that Dave was removed, right? As a
Right. Yes. I
director.
read
So
that.
I had to
Yes.
appoint another director from my side.
Hmm.
Um, I so I appointed Richie.
Which makes sense, honestly. I mean, why
I,
wouldn't you? I mean,
yeah, I
that
thought
would
it
make
was a good
sense.
choice. Yeah.
I think that was a really good choice. who has Linda, and again, if this is not public or you can't speak on this, please pass on the question. Has Linda picked a director on her side?
She didn't need to.
She doesn't need to.
No, her director was not removed.
I see. And I'm forgive my ignorance. I guess I wasn't aware. So who is her director? Is
Um, uh, I'm not sure how to answer that because we're still trying to figure out what the director is and what the manager is, and
okay.
it's
Um, I am kind of curious to know. I had met him some time ago, after one of the Riot Fest in Chicago, actually, right after the Misfits played. John Cafiero was involved in the Ramones camp for a while.
right.
Was that on? Was he involved on Johnny's affairs and in Joey's affairs? What exactly was his
He,
place
he
in
was he was
everything?
he was Mark. He was managing Marky,
Oh,
and he managed the Misfits.
right. Yes.
I think he still does. And
Yes, he does. As far
he
or
was
no, he
managing the Misfits.
manages no, he manages Jerry. He does not manage Glenn, I don't
Oh
think. Yeah.
no?
Yeah, no. Glenn is I think believe Glenn, okay, I could be wrong. I believe Glenn has his own situation. And on Jerry's side, and he's been with Jerry since the 90s. On Jerry's side is John Capiero, not on Glenn's side.
Yeah, well, you're right about that.
Yeah,
Because they weren't all together for a while, right?
right.
But anyway, Cafiero is managing Mark. Mark convinces Linda to have John Cafiero manage her as well.
Oh, that's so that
And then
was
she convinced Dee Dee's wife, Barbara, to have John manage her.
I see. I see.
And
And
then Mark splits off with Cafiero. Then Linda fires Cafiero. And
gotcha. Gotcha.
yeah, but yeah, he was managing Linda for I think about 4 years.
So you had worked with him for a time or
Yeah,
in some capacity. Interesting.
yeah,
That was in the 2000s.
that was from around 2008 or nine till around 2014.
Oh, okay. So it was much later than I thought. Interesting.
Well, John was still alive until 2004.
Right.
Um, so yeah, it was
Right. So it happened after John had passed away.
right.
Okay. Okay. Now I'm placing that. Does he still represent Barbara at all, or is
Yeah,
that?
he
Oh,
does.
he does. He does.
Yeah,
He's still so he is still
he's
involved in
still
some way,
involved in a way. Yeah,
but not to the extent. Do Barbara and Linda get along, or is that like you have no clue?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Now she represents the estate of Dee Dee, but she is not. It's not at the same. She is like I don't know what do you call those? What do you call the auxiliary people within your camp? Are they're not they're like junior constituents of some kind, or are they just
Well, the guys who weren't in the original four, have a different kind of uh, relationship
status?
status. Yeah,
Gotcha. I see. That's interesting. And so that's why, because that one of the things that CJ was complaining about was that like, I guess everybody has either a stake or some sort of whatever, some sort of interest in the camp of what you're doing. And that one of his complaints was that like he was watching, whatever passive revenue or whatever slowly dry up as a result of their not stuff not happening when it could have been happening and whatnot. So from that I sort of surmised, okay, so everybody kind of like in the way that maybe Ringo and George had interest in Northern songs, which was really just Paul and John, but that they sort of had their own that they had a stake in it. So that's what I assumed when I was reading his declaration and whatnot. And what has the struggle been in trying to get projects off the ground
I
in
that
regards?
that's I guess I can't really get into that. I'm afraid.
You were approached to make a movie about your book
Three times.
three different times, and the last time, this last go around, um, it was the wheels were really finally spinning, and it was going to be on Netflix or
Yeah,
something, right?
Netflix.
And and as of right now, unfortunately, it's not. It's things are
Status
frozen, or
is yeah,
it's.
dubious.
I'm sorry to hear that because I was looking forward to seeing it.
Well, yeah, it's a shame. Um,
For sure, it's a shame.
it
Is
could have done a lot of good for a lot of people. I sent you some letters
you did, which is why I was bringing this up in the first place. What were your intentions for this project? What were your hopes that it could be?
to tell my brother's story, to tell the story of brothers dynamics when one is doing well and the other one is, not, and when the roles reverse, how it, that's strange. Also, the main thing was to tell the story of this guy who was told he was going to be a failure and never a vegetable, never going to be able to function in society on his own, who, overcame all of that to become, an inspiration to millions of people.
Right. And so that is ultimately what the intention of this movie would have
Right,
been.
right. And that's what those letters were that I
Right.
sent you from these people
Right.
that, I was diagnosed with and told the same things as Joey was. And after I read
Right.
your book, it gave me hope, that if he could do it, I could do it.
Right.
Encourage
Right.
them, made a big difference. Some of these people say it made all the difference in their life. I mean, like I'm Dr. Phil all of a sudden or something.
Well, I think here's the thing, and here's what I can ultimately, all I have to go on besides speaking to you is that, like, I've looked at what you have done in the past, and what have you done in the past? You put out a book, and you put out a posthumous release. I mean,
Two of them.
make it right, two of them. So it's like what it kind of makes sense that, or the idea of doing or having a movie adapted from the book, like, it doesn't seem whatchamacallit, it doesn't seem unreasonable in regards in that kind of way. I From what I read from that other side, the it seemed that and again, I understand this is very sticky and that we have to be very careful how we discuss this, that, at the end of the day, that it infringes on other people in the band's right of publicity in terms of the fact that they would have to be represented in some way. And how does that all work? But in hearing you talk about the tone, the idea, the concept, the notion of a story more about that really does focus on your relationship with your brother, as well as this notion of a person who was told that, he was kind of doomed and then proved them all wrong. I I think there is room for that in it. I don't think that's competing with a Ramones biopic
No,
about all
it's
four.
not. It's its own story.
It could be its own. There's a way to sort of like focus in, zero in on that story if it's told in the right kind of
In
way.
2010, I,
Yeah.
I signed a deal with Fox Searchlight to do a movie on the book.
Hmm.
They got kind of far. They hired a writer,
Hmm.
Wesley Strick, who wrote the screenplay to Cape Fear, the one with Robert De Niro, and he wrote a screenplay, and I thought it was really, really good, and it was not a Ramones movie. It was very true to what I
Right.
wrote in my book. Uh,
Right.
Unfortunately, Fox Searchlight only uses a small stable of directors, like the guy who did The Wrestler, um, and they were all busy, and the 2-year term ran out, and they couldn't find the director,
Hmm.
and so it reverted back. to me.
You know
That was
what is interesting? If you do look at the book, I Slept with Joey Ramone. I mean, yes, there's a section in there that's dedicated to the Ramones, but the Ramones really do not come in until about I don't want to say it's halfway, but like there's a
about a
good
third.
yeah, I mean, it really is. And then it's life after the Ramones. So it's really, of course, the Ramones are a part of the story. How could they not be? But it's not, it
Peripheral.
really,
They were a peripheral part of it.
yeah, it's not a Ramones biopic in the way that I think that maybe it's being made out to be in that kind of way. And honestly, I'm not going to lie, like you definitely have a tightrope to walk. You have to be careful. If and when you're somehow able to get this up and running, like it's a tightrope because at the end of the day, you know, the if the core of the story loses focus in any way, shape, or form, then a finger gets pointed at you as, oh no, this is a Ramones biopic. It really has
Well,
to
it's getting
resemble.
pointed at me anyway,
Right. That's exactly why.
even
Exactly
though it's
right.
not, and I never intended it to be, and neither did Netflix, supposedly. You know, they never intended it to be a Ramones biopic
Let me
either.
ask you this question. I know this window was kind of small. Now, your mother, who was in your position before you, um, what was the dynamic? What were things like when she was overseeing things and sort of, had the reins and was very involved? Obviously, I'm sorry. Again, I don't mean to bring up something uh, sad and tragic. But when did your mother
Right.
pass away?
2007. Oh, actually,
2007.
January. I hate this time of year.
Because yeah,
January 27th.
mm,
I always.
sure,
And my
sure.
brother died 2 months.
Yep.
So yeah,
So she
yeah,
passed away in 2007 and Johnny passed away in 2004. So there's this like window of time where it's Linda and Charlotte.
right.
What was, do you remember that time? Like, what was the dynamic at that time in the Ramones camp in terms of just trying to get anything off the ground or anything?
It was a lot better than it is now. Um,
Interesting. So your mother
people,
had,
people tend to respect my mother, Joey's mother, you know, but I'm the brother. I'm the writing the coattails, but mom is, untouchable.
well, I think, again, like it's weird because you went off and you did your own thing. You had a band with fucking Lester fucking Bangs, who's like
Yeah,
a myth in his own like that
he's a
guy. I can
legend.
tell you that would be a fucking movie too. That's a movie that's waiting to be made in some way, shape, or form. I'm not just talking about Birdland, but
No,
just
no,
that
the
dude,
Lester
like
Bangs. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
just like Lester Bangs, but like obviously
At least a
Birdland would have to be
documentary or something, right?
yeah, a doc, something like there's something out there that needs to like come about. Does he what is his does he have like an estate or what's his like sort of is there anybody that's like overseeing him as a public figure in any way, shape, or form?
Um, there must be, but I'm not sure who it is, and I got to find out actually because somebody wants to. We're thinking about remixing that album, and somebody wants to put it out, re-release it.
Wow, that would be amazing.
Yeah, Ed Stasium's gonna be remixing, remastering.
Was he involved in the original sessions at all?
No, but he was involved in the mixing of that album before I put it out in 1986. Ed mixed it.
Wow.
We recorded it in Electric Ladyland. The bass player, Dave Merrill, was an engineer there, and they were doing some renovations. The studio was closed for a while, and he snuck us in
Hmm.
on the April Fool's Day. And we just recorded 9 songs, just let the tape roll. No
Sure.
overdubs, no nothing, right? And then we couldn't find the tape for years. Then we found it, and I had Ed mix it, and nobody wanted to put it out, even though it was Lester Bangs, right?
That's
But
crazy. That's so
so
crazy.
I had this idea of selling. I had seen some band do this in like I don't know some island in the Caribbean. I bought it, and on the back of the album cover there were ads for some guy's farm, for a shoe store, right? So I thought, "Oh, maybe I could do that here." And me and this girl, Robin Rothman, one of my brother's former girlfriends, we made up this whole plan and this treatment that went around to all the stores in the East Village and the West Village and got up about $1,000 and enough to print 1,000 copies of the album. But that's how
Wow.
I did it. There's all ads on the back cover. So
Hey, any which way, right? Any
any
which
way you
way.
could do it, right?
Any
Yeah.
way you could do it. But the point is like, look, you were doing your own thing separate. It's a weird thing. And again, I'm not going to name him publicly because I don't want to, it's not fair to him. But someone that we both know who is, goes back a long ways, you know, who is I don't know, definitely a figurehead in some way, shape, or form, said something along the lines of like, just talking about your talent and that your talent was,
Yeah.
underappreciated in its own way. And the idea that like, at the end of the day, like there was always like the looming shadow of the Ramones in some way, shape, or form as
Yeah.
you're trying to do your own thing and in service to the shadow at that, right? Like in one way or another, you know, um, did you ever, I'm just curious, did you, and I don't know if you could speak on this, maybe you can't, maybe it's better that you don't, but did you ever receive any kind of songwriting credit for any Ramon songs?
Yes, one.
Oh, you
Uh,
did.
yeah. Uh, Dee Dee used to come over here uh, for almost every other day, and uh, we were writing songs together.
Yeah.
We wrote about 4 or 5 songs. One of them was this song called "Go Home, Anne," uh, that came out. Well, Ed Stasium produced it actually. Lemmy mixed it. I went in and played the bass on it and the keyboards. They let me do that.
Mm.
um, but that's a song I co-wrote with Dee Dee, and he made sure I got my name on it. Dee Dee did.
And but did that song come out as a
It,
Ramones song?
it did. It came out on the B side of an import
Huh.
on Beggar's Banquet. Bonzo
Huh.
Goes to Bitburg was a 10
Yeah.
inch 10 inch EP vinyl.
Oh,
Bonzo Goes to Bitburg on one side, Go Home Man, and Daytime Dilemma on the back.
wow.
So yeah, my name Mitch Lee is on there.
What is, what
But
was,
there's a song like um, 9 to 5 World,
yeah,
which has a tricky riff, right?
yeah.
I didn't, and I wrote all the music for that pretty much. My name isn't on that. And my name isn't on any other songs, but it's weird. Go Home Man, people see it on YouTube, and I never heard this song before. Why, it's never on any of it's never included in any of the bonus tracks or anything.
There really is. I really think like it's funny, just like even talking about this with you, like there is such a movie. There's such an interesting sort of movie to be made, sort of meditating on you, like you and your brother and the Ramones and just like, almost in kind of like sort of like pseudo, you ever see Amadeus? Like a little bit like that.
Yeah,
Like
Raymond.
a little
Yeah,
bit,
a
right?
little
Like
bit. Yeah.
not exactly. You wouldn't put it
No,
exact.
I
It's
know
not
what
an
you mean.
exact same, but like
What's his name?
just the right, just like
The other
literally
guy
have
who was
you guys
mad,
put out,
the angry guy.
right, but you guys
Yelling.
put out I mean, you get put out a release called Sibling Rivalry. I mean, it's just the idea that like, and that's, I have a brother and I know what it is. I know what it is. The shtick between brothers is, it's this incredible bond that, you can't really, like, if you don't have a brother or a sibling, it's kind of hard to understand the sort of like like love hate, antagonistic, protagonistic relationship that you have with someone who you love through the friggin' roof, but also can drive you crazy, or that you get on each other's nerves from time to time and it goes back and forth. That's why it's like, no matter what happens in your guys' relationship, it's ultimately you guys are brothers,
Right.
right? Like you guys are
Yeah.
brothers. So, you can't really, I don't know, man. And
There's
then,
all, as you know, from having a brother, there's all kinds of resent from all kinds of things
of
dragging
course,
away, you know?
resentments and frustrations and just like, the idea of like, you're my brother and I love you and I want to help you and I'm here to help you and support you. And then it turns into like, hey, like, why are you, it can also turn around. It turns around. It can get turned around on you.
Yeah.
What could
Well,
be
they always say
intentions don't mean anything, right?
you're going to hurt somebody in your family because they'll
Forgive
forgive
you.
you. Right. But, and they also, people mostly hurt the ones that are closest to them, the ones that
That,
love them.
yes, there's that too. But it's, I don't know. I'm just saying that there is
I got all these people
absolutely,
out there who think they were closer to Joey. And even Mark, he says, we were closer than his family. You know, like Mark was there, in the hospital. He says he was, but he wasn't.
yeah, I
Um,
think I read in his book that he said that he was,
right.
I believe.
Yeah,
Here's what's interesting too. It's funny, man. I don't know, man. I'm trying to remember who said. I think it was. Oh yeah, you know what it was? Johnny wrote in his book, whatever, did an interview in his book. He said something along the lines of like, I was really pissed at Marky because Marky spilled the beans that I had cancer to the
right.
press. And then Marky responded in his book trying to explain himself.
Huh.
Yeah, it was really interesting because
What did he say?
I'm trying to remember.
Uh,
Again, I read his book whenever that
he,
came out. That was must have been 10 years ago now, but it was something along the lines of like he was trying to like explain himself, but it was interesting that he felt absolutely motivated because John really like raked him over the coals for doing that. Like as I
yeah,
recall
I
in
recall that.
reading Commando, that he was really upset because it's like this is nobody's business and you're talking about our personal business.
He did the same
Even
thing to my brother.
what
Went to
Marky
the
did.
press and
What, after he died or before when he was
before,
sick? Oh,
before
interesting.
when my brother was in the hospital and he'd been there for a month.
Yeah.
Um, and before he was in the hospital for cancer, he had just broken his hip, right? He fell and
Right.
broke his hip.
Mm-hmm.
Marky visited him in this place called Rusk Rehab Institute, where after you have an operation like that, they
Yeah.
send you, teach you how to, to walk and tie your
Sure.
shoes again and things like that. That's where Mark visited him. But he says he visited Joey when he was dying. There's an interview, just I can send you, but the interview says you write the scene about um, being there when Joey left us, and you were the only. And Mark says, "Well, nobody else was there. He wasn't there.
Well, the guys from the Independents, they were there, right?
Chris, the singer, was
Yeah, Evil
he,
Presley was there,
right. He
right?
was one of my brother's best friends.
Right. Right. I met him a few times over the years.
And
And
he
I
was
mean,
there almost every
Joey
day.
managed them. Joey managed
Right,
them.
right.
Yeah. He loved
Yeah,
the
he
Independents.
did. And he
Um,
loved this guy Chris. And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Chris slept overnight there sometimes, and he
Yeah,
was
he
there.
was there. He was really
Yeah,
there.
he was there a lot up until the last couple of weeks. Then I think he had some shows, and he took off.
Do you keep up with him today? Have you guys been in
I
touch?
tried.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to give him a call actually.
He's a
But
good guy. I
he's a
always
great guy.
liked him.
I love
Yeah.
him. Yeah, he's a great kid.
Yeah.
Great
Great
guy.
guy. Great
Yeah,
guy.
great guy.
Um,
He
so
was
that's it.
always trying to, tell my brother, he was always trying to get us together. Whereas a lot of these other people were, I heard your brother badmouth you. They would try to divide us
Right.
so that they could, you know, be closer.
Right. They wanted to put a wedge and
Right.
such in there, which doesn't help. Now, what's
But what
interesting,
CJ is saying, I'm sure he heard my brother say things like, "Oh, my brother's an asshole." You know, I'm sure you've said that about your brother,
of
right?
course, yeah.
He said that about you, and but so they'll take that one thing and make that everything.
So I'm going to ask you a question right now, and again, you do not have to answer this, or you can pass over it, and I invite you to do so if you need to. Why why are Marky and CJ going this avenue, this route? What is in it for them? Why?
Um, Good, you tell me. That I would answer you if I could, but I
Um,
I don't know. I can't figure it out. I mean,
well, it's a kind of a rhetorical question too, I suppose.
not
It
me, but I
invites.
mean, like I was telling you that CJ's come and played with me at well
Right. Yeah,
six of these.
I've seen video of
Right.
it. Yeah, it's out there.
So how do you say something like that and then participate in all these things that I'm doing?
I mean, what is like ultimately, whatever you want to call it, whether you're in it or not in it, it's like you are in it because you represent Joey, and therefore, what it feels like right now is it's this Ramones civil war of like attrition, which is so frustrating because it's like it's like there's so much that could be done. Like I had heard, like I don't know how true this is. This I had heard something along the lines of a Martin Scorsese Ramones movie. Like, was that ever real?
No.
That was never real.
As far as I know, I mean, if that's part of the problem. Linda's manager went and put out a statement in Billboard, I think it was, talking about this. Martin Scorsese um, will be helming a Ramones thing,
Oh my
and
God.
I had never, nobody had mentioned it to me at all, and so I
Would you have been opposed to that though? I mean,
no,
would
not
you?
at all.
That's like the guy. If anybody was to ever make a movie about the Ramones, it would be Martin Scorsese. It would be
I
like
guess
the
so.
fucking New
Or
York. He's the
uh,
New York guy. He's a New York
yeah,
guy. I mean, he's
I
got.
well, I love Scorsese.
Yeah.
Um, I, it would have been might have been amazing, but I didn't know anything, knew nothing about it. Here is a situation that her manager's talking about a Martin Scorsese movie, and I know nobody told me about it, but here I am, under the pressure for doing this and not saying anything. But it's my book. I mean, uh, it's not a Ramones biopic. Um, but the Scorsese thing was never real. Or if it was, if somebody spoke to him,
You hadn't signed, if it was real or if there was talk about it, you hadn't signed on yet. And in order for that movie to happen, that does require you to sign on. And therefore, it's only as real as if you were to have signed on,
that
right?
and if there was something going on and nobody had spoken to me about it, that's supposedly not supposed to be the way things go.
I mean, like,
I got to be careful what I say here now. So
of sure, sure. So, so what is like, but so like, what is the solution here? Like in the future, is it just having you have Richie in this seat, and Linda has her person, and like there's four of you. Is there like does this guy what is Richie's relationship with Linda? Do they have some kind of rapport in any way, shape, or form?
no. I brought Richie when the Ramones were given a lifetime achievement award by the Grammy Academy. Um, that we came to accept the awards on me on my brother's behalf, Linda on John's behalf. John Cafiero, we did it accepted on Dee Dee's. Yeah, I brought Richie up on the stage with me. Richie was not invited to this event.
Right.
and certainly was not invited to come up on the stage and say anything. But I brought him up, and that was the only time he ever met Linda.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy too. It's like, I mean, even if he was in the band for just a little bit, he was in the band. He played on 3 albums.
For
He
five
wrote
years.
songs, right? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, you would consider in light of the fact that all the core four, the founding four are gone, there's got to be somebody in the Ramones. And listen, no matter, I do think it's a wonderful thing that Marky is out there, with his guys, playing live Ramones music in that space, for people that want to hear Ramones music.
I guess so. I mean,
It's
there's enough Ramones cover bands out there, really.
There are, and I mean, at the end of the day, it's like kind of weird because it's kind of like, you're going to see the drummer of like, the Ramones drumming on Ramones songs. But again, at the same time, for someone like me who is like fascinated by Ramones drumming, like it really is what he does is quite amazing. The idea, the magic of the wrists of having to do it is amazing. It really is amazing because it's funny how it's not about arm power.
Right.
It's all about the bounce and the wrist and whatnot. So
Same as like down picking is in the
yes, right,
wrist.
right,
Yeah.
yep. And so on that level, it's fascinating to see Marky out there, doing that music. Like it makes me happy. I'm like glad. Are there better combinations to be had as we discussed before? Like yeah, like fucking what are you guys fighting about? Like get up CJ, you were in the Ramones too. Why aren't you guys you guys did it in the 90s, right? Like why aren't you doing it now? Like it's so crazy to me. And hey, Richie is now singing. He's out there front singing. So go out there. So go out there and do some Ramones songs from the remaining Ramones guys. Like that's great.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
I'm glad that he's out there
I
doing
got
it.
CJ and Richie together to do these birthday bash things.
Right. And it's like, and Danny Ray was playing with them, right, for a while. I mean, that was
Yeah.
great. I mean, in lieu of not having, Johnny Ramone, like having Daniel Ray, who wrote a bunch of Ramone songs and played guitar, probably shadow played guitar, a bunch of stuff in the studio, I'd
Oh,
imagine.
tons
Like,
of stuff. Yeah. In the studio.
yeah. So the only time, the closest thing, this is so sad, the closest thing that I've ever seen of the Ramones was I was born in 85. So I could have seen the original lineup, but there was no one who was going to take me to the Ramon
You
show at
couldn't have.
11. Yeah.
Tommy was gone in 78.
No, but I just mean like I just mean like even seeing the 90s version of the band. Like
Oh, right.
I could have I could have technically have seen them, but nobody took it. The closest thing I got to seeing the Ramones was just
Oh,
CJ and Daniel Ray doing a Ramones cover set at the Continental.
wait.
Remember the Continental?
Jeff, can you give me 1 second?
Go ahead.
Dave, hey. All right. Are you gonna go? You going to sleep?
Hey, just pumping the brakes one more time to let you know, just in case that you did not know, that I have a Patreon with a ton of stuff that you cannot find on the YouTube channel. We are talking hours and hours and hours of stuff just like this. So if you enjoy these conversations, if you enjoy these interviews, if you enjoy these deep dives into all of these topics that we like to discuss here at the channel, you're going to find hours and hours and hours. We got to be approaching hour 100. I don't actually know that, but I think we're getting close. There is so much stuff for you to check out. So sign up today. What are you waiting for? Check it out. Go to the Patreon. Support the channel. There's no better way. Join the Patreon today. Hey guys, what's going on? It's Jeff. So I've decided to make a Patreon. What is Patreon? I don't know how to define a Patreon. Let me look it up. Patreon is a membership platform that makes it very easy for creators to get paid for the things that they're already creating. I want to do it full time. I want this to be my full-time job. In my efforts to make that happen, I've set up this platform. Is it going to work? Is it going to be successful? I don't know, but I would rather try and crash and burn than not try at all. The goal is to create enough passive revenue so that I can continue to do this full-time, uninterrupted. Why? Because I love to do this. I love creating content. I love making videos. I love shooting films. I love doing podcasts. In case you couldn't tell, I love to talk and I never shut the fuck up.
So right now I've kept the Patreon incredibly simple. There's 2 tiers, and that may change in the future. The Murdergram is a simple way to extend support for all of the hours and hours of free content on the channel for nothing more than $1. 38 cents goes to Patreon. What's $1.38, eh? It's less than a cup of coffee, but it's a great way that you can show support for very little effort. When you divide that $1.38 by the hours and hours and hours of time spent listening to this endless drivel of content, the dollar cost average works out. Next up is the YouTube casualty for $6.66. The YouTube casualty is loaded to the gills. Enjoy the archive ad-free, as well as ad-free early access to special docu-style podcast videos, music reaction commentaries, and the like, a month before they drop on YouTube, loaded with ads, I might add. You're also going to get exclusive content and behind-the-scenes content that is not available on YouTube or anywhere else. So you get to peek behind the veil. And believe me, there's a couple of choice pieces. Most of all, more than anything, whether you join the Patreon or not, I just want to thank each and every one of you that comes to the channel, that watches all the shows, that leaves comments, that participates, that subscribes. That's really the most important thing. This is just trying to find a way to earn a living as an artist. And with that, thank you for my TED Talk. Join the Patreon because we need you!
66 cents.
You may not have been in the Ramones, but you are a part of the Ramones history. You have a right to, and you get to share in that history in the same way that Monty gets to share in that history. And you know, what's funny, what's very interesting is I made the mistake in my ignorance. I made a mistake of, and maybe I had heard it somewhere a long time ago, but I had made the mistake of referring to Monty as Monty Ramone at some point. And he was very, very quick. And, you know, matter of fact, wasn't upset or anything, just very quick to correct me and say, no, I'm Monty Melnick, not Monty Ramone. Because the idea of, like, you have the fifth Beatle, and like, just sort of like, I always kind of, in my mind and maybe in other people's minds, Monty had been around, and seen
I call
so much.
Arturo Vega.
Same thing with the same exact thing. These were the Mal Evans and what's his face? The 2 Beatles guys. The Mal Evans.
Peter Best?
No. What the hell was the name of the guy? Neil Aspinall. Neil Aspinall, who was the president of Apple Limited, who was a roadie for the Beatles in 1962. He was there. I mean, these guys were there at the beginning. They were the inner circle. He had fathered a son with Pete Best's mother, Mona Best. He had a kid with her. Sorry, he had a kid with her. I mean, like, this guy was as inner circle as it gets. You know what I mean? And he looms large in the Beatles mythology because he was there. So for someone to police you for simply being a part of a legacy and a history that you contributed to doesn't make any sense to me.
Rather than use that person as an asset.
Right. Because there's an alternate reality where you and Linda are on the same page, and you guys have done, like, that there's been more documentaries, and there's been a biopic, and the I Slept with Joey Ramone has come out, and there's even, I got to tell you, have you ever seen Frank's Kid? Do you know who Frank's Kid is? Frank. Oh my God. I have to share this with you. You will love this. You had to have seen this. You've never seen the Frank's Kid Ramones thing?
No.
You're going to love this. I hope that you'll love this. I hope this won't upset you. I think you would love this. And if it does upset you, it's my apology. No, I don't think it'll upset you. I think you'd love this.
I doubt it.
This guy on Instagram, his name's Mike, and he just does,
Mike? Ukulele Mike?
No. I know who you're talking about. That's the guy from the band who does covers. No, I'm not talking about that guy. What he does is he does all sorts of, like, pop culture mashups, and typically they involve, like, horror bands and stuff, and they did the Misfits as Scooby-Doo, but they did the Ramones as like a
Yeah.
Saturday morning TV cartoon. Have you seen
Oh,
that?
no.
You've never seen this?
The Ramones cartoons?
Oh my God. Oh my God. It's like, and it's not a cartoon. It's like 30 seconds. It's like a little, it's a thing he made on Instagram. Hold on. I'm trying to find this for you.
Not
You,
the
I,
English guy.
and now he's done a bunch of them actually. I'm looking at him right now. You've never seen this?
No.
Oh my God. I'm so excited right now to watch you watch this. Okay, hold on. Let me get this back so you can say, all right, ready?
Yeah.
You should be able to hear this, hopefully.
Okay. I think Dave did see it because he said something about Superman. Oh, I've never seen it. I mean, there's so Jeff. There's so much stuff out there, man. But no, that's kind of funny. I think.
For a whole generation of people who never got to see the Ramones, like, it's like the idea that there's an alternate future where you and Linda get on the same page and something like this could even come out in some way, shape, or form,
For
whether you would
shame.
want it to or not. It's just like it's frustrating. It's frustrating.
Oh,
It
I got
sucks.
plenty, so many ideas for things, but
Mm.
yeah, it's a shame. I mean,
All I can do
what I
is
would do is, do you know that package, Weird Tales of the Ramones?
yes,
I thought a cartoon show called Weirder Tales of the Ramones,
dude. I'm
right?
telling you, as like cartoon characters, like
Right. Then you can do anything.
you could do anything. And again, this is a world where the Ramones aren't here anymore, like in the flesh. So it's like keeping their spirit alive in these really fun, interesting ways, I think is both ethical and like wonderful and fantastic. And it's just such a shame that you know, as like whatever that judge, somebody said in one of those articles that I read when I read on my YouTube about like, it's a shame that, that the harmony is not reached in some way because it prevents things from coming out. And it's frustrating. And I'm frustrated for you. I really am. It sucks. The whole thing sucks.
It kind of does. It's pointless. It's so silly, just so that somebody else can use the name, but it disrupts things so drastically.
I want to talk about Tommy as a drummer and the idea that like while Tommy was the drummer of the Ramones, Tommy's not a drummer. He's not a drummer. He's a guitar player,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So it's this weird notion where this band is forming and they're not forming with a drummer. They're
Right.
like, oh no, this guitar player who's showing everybody what to do.
Well, they were forming with the drummer, my brother.
Right, right. But
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 he
he had to
couldn't.
start and stop, start and stop.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so I'm gonna jump in here. I
Also,
don't play
he didn't
drums.
have that vision in his head that Tommy had for the sound.
Right. But it's interesting to me that Tommy's approach to drumming almost seems to come from like a guitar, like the fact that he's a guitar player,
Yeah,
right? Like in the set,
probably. Yeah.
like conceptually, he's not approaching the beat in like the way that, he is. I mean, he is in the pocket, right? Technically, he's
Oh
in the
yeah.
pocket, but in fact, that's all he is in the pocket. But maybe that's what makes it the mentality of a guitar player is that he's not doing anything else because to him, he's like, my drummer needs to keep be in the pocket so that I can play guitar. And
He's
he's
trying to play the
servicing.
drums like they were a guitar.
Yeah, and he's servicing the band the way that he would want if he was playing guitar out front and he needed somebody in the pocket, which is kind of like
I guess I could. He never played drums before, and
right,
when he played guitar, he didn't play like John played.
right. So it's kind of interesting to me that like, so that's my observation is that like It's almost like he's like pretending, as if he was pretending that maybe he was playing guitar and
Well,
that he
that's what
needed
the
somebody, right? But that,
high eighth notes on the hi-hat.
yeah, but like even like the idea that he's like conceptually, he's like, well, if I was out there playing and I needed somebody to be on the drums holding down the beat for me,
Right.
that's what I'm doing right now. And
Exactly.
it just so happens I'm not out there in the front. I'm only here in the back, but I'm going to do the thing that I would want if somebody was playing drums for me. And obviously, you can't answer that question. Nobody can answer that question except for Tommy. But it's just kind of interesting to kind of percolate on and think about in that kind of
And
way.
he's explained it a few times, Tommy.
Yeah.
He was trying to have everything lock in the bass with the guitar,
Mm.
with the drums, but that's why it was all eighth notes on the hi-hat.
Yeah.
And cymbal crashes were like the only those are like the solos.
So strange.
Yeah.
So utterly
Those
strange.
are, it was approaching it like a guitar. The cymbal crashes were his guitar solos.
Right. And it's just really strange. And then it's amazing that like even Marky, steps into the shoes and tries to like fill in the sound and comes from like more complicated versions of drumming. Like he comes from like, whatever,
But most
different.
drummers do.
Sorry.
Most drummers do come from a more complicated.
Right, right. So the idea of like, holy shit, why is this so goddamn hard right now? I should be able to do this. And like, it's just fascinating. It's just in a way, in a weird kind of way, Marky's struggle at the beginning to onboard as in the Ramones is kind of like this interesting sort of pinpoint focus as to what made the Ramones in the first place, in the sense that like, their approach to music was just brilliance in the simplicity, and that if you weren't simple, if you were more complicated, it was going to take up some time for you to like almost unlearn what you had to know in order to be able to do what they did in that kind of way,
Right.
which is
Less is
interesting to
more.
me.
I mean, there was a whole, they weren't the first, they didn't invent minimalism in art,
No, of course not, of course
but
not.
nobody did it better in music.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah, that's a good way to put it. They did not, and I like that a lot actually.
it's a good one.
They did not invent
Minimalism,
minimalism, but nobody did it like they did. That's really profound.
music.
Yeah, musically. Yeah, that is really profound. I really like that a lot because, yeah, I don't know. It's just really interesting because at the end of the day, like, when people use these labels, punk rock, what is punk rock? What is that? Punk rock is just rock and roll, man. Rock and roll was the punk rock, right? Like, I mean,
Uh,
it's
Bubblegum
just,
music played on 10
yeah.
or 11.
Or and the idea again, I love the idea too, the idea of like how a musician ends up being like a filter box, like, like Sheena's a punk rocker is like fucking Beach Boys. It's like
Yeah.
them trying to, hey, we're trying to make a Beach Boys song, but it doesn't come out sounding like Beach Boys. It comes out like Sheena is a punk rocker,
And
which is so
I don't know, did you ever hear the Beach Boy, Brian Wilson version of Rockaway Beach?
no.
Check it out.
I will. Oh
You got
man.
the Beach Boys copying a Ramones song that was copying a Beach Boys
That's
song.
insane. He covered Rockaway
Covered
Beach.
Rockaway Beach. Yeah.
When did that happen? Was
About
that after?
3 years ago.
Oh my God, Joey probably would have been like, "Oh, what did you think when you saw that? What did you think in your head?
Um,
That must have been just like you
I,
must have
I wish they would, hear this to see that. You know,
fuck.
um, I'm not I'm not crazy about it between you and me, but I like
Yeah.
let me put it this way. I like the Ramones version better.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. I mean, that's fair, but like it's just, whether without comparing either or, it's just the idea, the novelty of
How the way things come around full circle.
I mean, just like a guy like, when you think about Brian Wilson, the contemporary of the fucking Beatles, like, the Beach Boys and the Beatles, and the idea that like this guy is covering a song that is trying to be one of his own songs.
Right.
It boggles the mind. When we get off here, I'm going to listen to that.
Yeah, check it out. A lot of their songs are like that.
So before we conclude this session, let's actually go to some of the comments that you made um, underneath my video. So for anybody, this is actually like the last of a long line of videos that I've done, a few of them at least, about just like this whole situation. And I have a video. Go watch it. Where we read over CJ's declaration. CJ Ramone enters the punk rock family feud between Mickey and Linda. Isn't that a great SEO search title? It's perfect. It just hits all the friggin' nooks and crannies. And what was so wonderful about this video is that it came across Mickey's radar in some way, shape, or form. It came across Mickey's radar, and Mickey responded, which was so nice because it put us in contact, and we were able to conduct the session. I just want to say, I want to thank you for your time and your generosity with your time in talking to me tonight and
I want to thank you
clarifying
for,
things.
I could tell you were trying to get the story right and that
Mm,
uh,
yes.
trying
Uh,
to, you know,
hey,
yeah. So
that's what I was hoping to do. But let's talk about this is what you say. This is what you said to me under that video, and it's not represented. It's funny too, because had you not agreed to do this, my next move would have just been, all right, well, I'll just read what he wrote in the comments. I'll just read that in another video because that gets the job done, I guess. But it'd be much nicer to have him on and like, talk this out with him and talk about it with him. So I'm so glad that you did that. This is
thank
what
you
you
for having
wrote. Of
me.
course, of course. This is what you wrote. You said, the story I wrote is about a guy I grew up with who, from birth, suffered from many maladies and was told by doctors that he'd never be able to function on his own, yet went on to become a huge success and inspiration to millions of people. Yes, he did it via being in a rock band, but it wasn't about the band. It could have been about a guy who was told these same things, yet went on to become a top pilot in the Air Force. Would the story be about the person or the Air Force? And that's the underlying concept of what we were discussing before with Dave on the phone and with Mickey here. It's about the underdog who beat the odds and overachieved beyond all expectations. It's not about the Ramones. The story that Mickey wrote inspired thousands of people in similar situations to believe that they could do the same. And they continue to, they contact you and they appreciate you for telling the story. It's also about family dynamics and how things like this affect people's whole family, especially their brothers and sisters, and how even when they have problems or occasionally fight with each other, as we already discussed as well, the sort of relationships and dynamics between brothers and sisters, if you want to be honest about it with enough love and support, they can overcome the biggest obstacles. That ultimately this really does not have anything to do with Linda Ramone or Chris Ward, aka CJ Ramone, or Mark Bell, aka Marky Ramone. And I think that in our exploration tonight, like we have really, proved that. Like we've really sort of gotten to like the core of what this movie could be. And I'll be honest with you, when I was making that video, and trying to figure things out, I wasn't exactly sure. I was like, well, maybe she does. I was sort of seeing her side in terms of like, well, everybody does have a right to publicity, and I don't think you would disagree with that statement. Everybody does have a right to publicity, but the reality is that the focus here is not being. It's the wrong focus. The focus is the core of the story of brothers and the story of like the Amadeus like aspects of the story. And that's what really differentiates this, as well as the logic of what Dave was saying over the phone. Like the reality is that even if you wanted to tell the story of the Ramones in 2 hours, you wouldn't be able to do a very good job of it because there's just too much shit there. You just couldn't do
And
it.
of any band. I mean,
Any band.
even with this, the book is 400 pages, and as I told you, this is the third time I was approached by somebody to make a movie out of it. And I know they're going to have to create dream sequences or whatever. You have to,
Sure.
um,
Streamline. It has to be
right.
streamlined. You have to, there's going to definitely probably be I'm just curious. I don't know if you could say this. What do you remember what the page count was on any of those scripts? Was it over 100 pages?
On the screenplay,
Yeah.
I only saw the one from the Fox Searchlight,
Yeah.
the one that Wesley Strick wrote.
Was that over
The,
100?
the rule is one page on a screenplay is equal
1 minute.
to a minute, right?
That doesn't, I will say though, as a filmmaker myself, that I have written screenplays where I have written screenplays, shit you not, that were 70 pages and they were 120 minutes long. Like
Really?
sometimes, yes, like yeah, it's totally the rule of thumb to average. And I'm trying to think of what's a good musical scenario for that? I can't think of one. There's got to be something like what is, God, what is a good approximation of that for music? I don't know.
You mean
But
how a page can be so much longer than a minute?
yes, or that a page is supposed to be roughly equate a minute. And I'm like, is there a musical analogy that works for that? I don't know.
Yeah.
If something comes to you, please contribute it to the conversation. But in any case, CJ says that during his time in the band that Joey had nothing to do with you. Yet in 91, he had asked you to help him write the song Censorship. And in 1993, in the middle of CJ's 6-year Ramone stint, you and Joey went on to make the sibling rivalry record, that Jello Biafra put out on Alternative Tentacles.
Joey initiated.
Right. So like and at one point in time,
1995, I had the band stop.
right,
He
he
wanted
wanted to
to
manage
manage
it.
us. He hooked us
Right.
up for a tour in England. And,
The point is that the Joey's actions do not align with the things that are being read in the statement, and that's something that's not well. That's something that needs to be notated. At least it needs to be acknowledged, and I can appreciate you wanting to speak on that.
but it seems like it might also affect my capacity in this role. Yeah. If
100%.
they're saying my brother would never have wanted me to, and somebody else is saying that too, but that my brother never would have wanted me to have anything to do with his music. And when he's gone, I mean, like I said before, who talks about what they want to see happen when they're gone?
Right.
But so
Right.
that was a little weird right there. But
There's clearly there's clearly there seems to be a scramble to get allies on sides, and allegedly,
yeah,
and
if
and that
you're not sticking to the truth, I don't know.
I know, I know, but I'm just saying allegedly because
Right, right, right.
I have to say allegedly. You don't have to say allegedly, but I do for
Well,
many reasons.
yeah,
Right? I
yeah.
have to be
I don't.
careful. I have to.
I'm
You
not
don't.
about myself. I
Yeah,
don't
but
have
I'm a
to say
guy.
anything.
I'm just a guy on the internet. So I'm saying allegedly. So I hope you understand that's why I'm saying allegedly.
Okay.
Um, because I don't want
No,
anybody. Yeah.
you're right.
Okay. As long as you can appreciate that. Okay.
Absolutely.
All
You
right. All right.
don't
All right.
know, so
Yeah, exactly. I am literally just a guy on the internet who's just trying to make sense of all this
right.
to the best of my ability.
I'm just here trying to help you.
You've been willing to come on to try and help me to do that. So I really do appreciate
It's
that. And
also not fun having that stuff out there about you and your family.
sure.
You know,
It's not
uh,
if it's going to be out there about you and your family, you definitely want to be able to speak up and say something about it, especially because they're no longer around to speak up for themselves. You
hence
know,
when you asked why would he put this on Joey's page? They're saying horrible things about him. Why would he? I understood what you
well,
were
I was
saying.
shocked when I saw that you put. I
Right.
was like, "What the fuck?" I was like, "This is going to make for a very interesting video for sure." But like, what?
And then I
Why?
posted the video with my brother uh, talking about how wonderful, uh,
Yeah,
and to dispel that.
I'm very curious to know how this is all going to play out, and I suppose we won't know until the future comes around, and we'll see.
I wish I knew too, but you'll be reporting about it.
Well, yeah, I'm definitely going to follow up. I'll tell you, this is a far better substitute than just reading the news of, oh, Richie Ramone is the new, guy
Director.
and the new director, and like why, trying to like look at that. And what's interesting is I didn't realize that Marky had done his own declaration, and therefore, in my mind, I'm going, well, huh. I wonder why he picked Richie over Marky, and now it makes like complete sense. Well, it made sense before that because in Marky's book he calls you Mitchell.
I, oh, there's another interview I just said where he says they all called each other by their real names. Um,
Who said that?
Mark, I'll send it to you. He says he called Dee Dee Douglas and he called my brother Jeffrey. And
Really? Is that
he
true?
says, I don't
You
think
don't
so.
know.
No, I know. I mean, I was around them enough I never heard him calling my brother Jeffrey or um, calling Dee Dee Douglas.
Is okay, question. Did you watch him fight with Johnny Rotten
I
on that
did.
thing?
I did.
What did you think of that whole
It was
situation?
pretty funny.
It was really funny.
Yeah, it was very entertaining.
I mean, I really appreciated Marky in that moment because because Johnny Rotten was really being an asshole, and
As
I
he
really
can
feel
be.
like Marky really put him in his place. That Marky
Did,
was
I guess. Yeah.
he did a
I
good job there.
Johnny was asking for it, really.
He was, and I'll tell you, it was funny because you know, uh, I was amazed that Henry Rollins even said what he said to him.
That's it.
He was like, and again, like Henry Rollins reveres as much as Henry Rollins reveres the Ramones, he reveres the Sex Pistols, of course, as everybody does or whatever. And he says that, but then he also says, "You call us a bunch of like fucking rich kid, fucking assholes." In Black Flag,
Oh,
he said that too. He pulled them. They shook hands, and when they were shaking hands, he like pulls his hand. Henry does
Henry
this.
pulls.
Henry pulls his hand closer or something, and like gets in his face a little bit, and is like says like tells Johnny Rotten what Johnny Rotten like the shit that Johnny Rotten talked about Black Flag, but like Henry Rollins says it to his face. I was like, oh, he's totally gonna roll over on his back for Johnny Rotten because he reveres him and whatnot. He's not gonna, he didn't do that. He actually, I was like, damn. I was like, damn, that was some shit right there. So both Henry and Marky, they did a good job on that panel, I thought,
It was
because
John Lydon seems to thrive on that kind of stuff.
absolutely, absolutely. Wait a minute. You were there in England.
Yeah.
Wait, holy shit. I am talking to a dude who was fucking there. Wait a minute. So
Oh,
they peed
I
in his
wasn't
beer.
there. No, I can't.
Right, right. Wait, no, they peed in his beer, right?
I don't know if they
You
beat.
don't know that? Oh, come on. Did they pee in his beer?
They've said they've done that to a lot of people, to Danny Fields, to I I, I
The
don't doubt it.
myth, Mickey, the myth over the truth, the
It's
myth over the truth.
very possible.
My God,
Or
fuck, you
things
were
like
there for
that
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 shit.
went on back there. Yeah,
I mean, it's just crazy. Like you saw all the things that you saw from your vantage point.
I had the best seat in the house.
You had the best seat in the house. Like that's what, again, like to go back to if you go through a Ramones book and you're going through early Ramones stories before like Linda is even around, like you can actually raise your hand. Monty can too, but you can raise your hand. You could say, "Yeah, actually, I was there. Yeah, no, I was. Yeah, no, eyewitness here. Hi, me. Like you were there, man. Like so, it's like, and that's why for me, speaking to you, as much as I'm speaking to you because you're Joey's brother, you were also, I mean, you were there. You
Yeah.
were a part of that time. So it's like, it's not just you're
Why
not
I'm not supposed to say that? I don't know.
Well, here's the thing. Okay, let's look at it like this. Let's dissect it from this perspective. How about this? Let's take a look at someone like Victoria Price or Bella Lugosi's daughter. Do you know where I'm going with this?
No, not really.
Okay, so Victoria Price, it's like somebody, it's like somebody accusing you of maybe being more like Victoria Price or Sarah Karloff than Mickey Leigh. And what I mean by that is that they weren't fucking around when Vincent Price was making those fucking movies. They're at conventions being, hey, I'm Vincent Price's daughter. That's so fucking cool. You're Vincent Price's daughter. Great. Like awesome. Like that is awesome.
Yeah,
But like, I mean, that's a cool novelty, but like you're not Vincent Price.
right.
You know what I'm saying? But you like completely separate from that, from separate from being related to Joey Ramone. I mean, you were fucking there. You were there. You were actually there. You were there when they were recording the first album, an
Yeah,
album that is lauded
bang
as
on 6 songs.
right. But that's my point is that like
I
you
didn't
are
just
a
do hand claps. That's
right,
what
right,
I
yeah. That
did.
was my mistake. I said in my previous video, which and that was from reading the book in 2009 and not remembering what it was, but just that Mickey had participated in some way. I didn't
Also,
remember what it
a
was.
lot of people say that. Somebody maybe said it.
Okay, so maybe somebody said it and it went off, but I
So he
appreciate you
did hand
clarifying that.
claps.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. No, that you sang backing vocals on 6 songs. I mean, the point is that you participated in the history in a variety of ways. And that's why, what's interesting is I know this is going to sound weird. Maybe this is not the right way to say this, but like in that kind of way, you are entitled to your own fucking right of publicity, are you not? Like in the sense of like, hey, were you there during the recording of this fucking legendary record? Yes, I was. Did you participate on said recordings? Yes, I did. Are you using the last name Ramone? No, I'm not a fucking Ramone, but I was there for the fucking history. I'm in this weird sort of like place,
Yeah.
and I don't think it's fair to you. I don't.
It's a tough position to be in.
It's a tough position. It's
I
weird,
got
man.
to say, I'm guilty of to a degree of if you see Ashley Simpson, how or the whole nepotism thing. Like, oh, they probably they got a deal because they're somebody's brother, sister, or son.
Yeah,
Uh, I'm, I've been guilty of that in my lifetime.
yeah,
Like with the Ashley Simpson. How the fuck did she get a record deal? But some people
right.
say that about me, and I can understand that to a degree, but um, not if you after you listen to what I do, um, and I don't have the same name as Simpson and Jessica Simpson, and I never would call myself Ramona. There was a point where I stopped calling. I was going to change my name to something else completely, so that nobody would know it was me, and we'd stop hearing Joey's brother's band.
Mm.
We couldn't get our own name mentioned. There was all Joey's brother sounds like Joey. You know,
I mean, it's a weird, again, that's the price. And so, like, that's the weird double-edged blade of the whole situation because you are who you are doing your own thing in your own right. It comes down to like this issue of identity. And I would imagine that like a really good version of I Slept with Joey Ramone would explore that in a very sort of like nuanced kind of way of like, fuck, like, which I mean, it's in the book. It's in the book too, as I recall. I really need to reread the book. I need to reread the book.
yeah. I also wrote it for the people like me who are related to the somebody
Sure,
famous. What
sure.
it's like being in that position.
It's a very rarefied air, and it's very weird. And there's very few. I mean, look at like look at like any of the fuck like Sean Lennon or fucking Julian Lennon. Those guys too. I mean, they all fucking they go through it. I mean, look at fucking what's his face too. Stephen King's son goes by the name Joe Hill, and which is his real name. You know what his birth name is? Joe King.
Huh.
Joe King. Joe King.
Joking.
That's his fucking real name.
You're joking.
You're joking.
Yeah,
Leaving. No, but like, just the idea of like, that Joe Hill was like, I'm gonna write under the name Hill because I don't want anybody to think that
Nicolas Cage did that.
Nicolas Cage. And let me tell you something, I got a lot of fucking respect for Nicolas Cage too for
I
doing
do
that shit.
too. Even though if he was, well, I got a lot of respect for him.
I
I
have a
always,
lot of Oh, right, because he's on that, he's in that camp. That's right. He was fucking tight with all of them, right?
Johnny
Yeah.
introduced him to Lisa Marie Presley.
Wow. Did he really? I did not know
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
I knew that they were tight though, and Rob Zombie too, right? All those guys
yeah.
were, yeah, they were all tight.
Oh, I'm calling a timeout real quick. Yeah, just like Zach Morris used to do back on Saved by the Bell. I just want to let you know I made a documentary. It would mean so much to me if you would check it out. It's called Kuyashi Gonzo, Blood Visions and Chaos Magic. You can find it on the homepage of the channel. It's the first video. It's the showcase video. Kuyashi Gonzo, Blood Visions, and Chaos Magic. If you are into the creative process, if you are into DIY, no-budget punk rock art making, whether it's music or movies or whatever, you should watch this documentary. If you like the movie American Movie, you know where you're Coven, you know what I'm talking about? If you like a movie like American Movie, then you're going to love Kuyashi Gonzo. It's basically the updated version of that story, but in the year 2020. So go check out Kuyashi Gonzo today. Who am I? I am nobody. I'm just a guy who is a big fan of the Misfits. And I also am a filmmaker. I have, in a month, a fucking huge shoot coming up. One of the biggest of my life.
I was scared to do it again because the first time I made a movie, it almost didn't come together.
What's so funny? It's just your grandson feeding you baby food.
If I didn't complete this feature film, it would have been the end of the world for me.
You got the shot.
Pain is temporary, foam is forever. The process on one hand feels this impossible mountain to climb. Is this my great downfall?
And you kind of gulp and you go, okay, well, time to climb the next mountain. And that's kind of like what life is. We'll take it a shooting day at a time.
We're gonna get magic?
It's gonna be like fucking Magic Johnson.
Leave, get out. Ah!
The anxiety is unpleasant and uncomfortable. The fear is a very healthy one.
Growing.
This tastes like sand, fucking mud.
No, when in doubt, when you don't know what you're doing, just make everything blue. You need this humility to be like, maybe you can't do this. Or red. Which leads me to go, well, I'm gonna try my goddamn best to. Or a combination thereof. Just go Suspiria.
Wouldn't be a micro-budget independent film without a hallucination scene, right?
You also throw up some nice chunky chunks. You got no problem eating oatmeal?
Oh shit, oh man, I'm sorry.
You look like fucking Ash.
After today, what percentage would you say we're at? We don't have enough action scenes. I think we're at about half.
This is supposed to be the finale of the film.
You might be right. We might have half the movie.
There's nothing to talk about until there's a movie in the can.
This is your Frank Booth gun.
Shove, 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 punch, punch, punch.
There's a scene waiting to be revealed within the footage.
Take down with the headlock.
Like a block of marble waiting to become a sculpture.
And then no, don't do it or whatever. And then.
And I'm spent!
I'm in uncharted territory right here.
I don't even know what we're doing.
A fork in the road. Isn't this what happened to Dante when he encountered Virgil?
Look, I kind of know. I have an idea.
I feel like a failure. I was not expecting to be where I am at 35.
I've never been so broke in my life.
Feeling a lot of self-pity.
This thing could be taken from me at any moment.
And yet, for some reason, I'm happy.
You only fail if you give up. Tonight, we dined in hell.
This journey is one of the most profound lessons of my life.
I'm glad John got mellowed out and made some friends there at the end. You know,
Do you think he did? Did he mellow out from?
he did.
Yeah.
Because when I went to interview him for my book, first of all, I didn't think he'd even do it, but he did, and I had to kind of confront him about certain things, like, you know, you thanked everybody that ever worked for you on some record. Someone, you never thanked me. Why? He said, I don't know. I said, you don't know? said, no, I don't know. I'm sorry, but I don't know. So he apologized.
Huh.
For John, that's huge.
He never apologized for nothing.
He wasn't that type that, you know, very readily apologized for many things.
How do you,
He didn't apologize to my brother.
well, that was going to be what I was going to ask. How, like, I've read all sorts of things about this. I want to hear your perspective. I read that he was, even though he did not, whatever, he didn't visit your brother. I don't know if he called him or not. Maybe he didn't call him either, but that he was shaken by your brother's death and that it did affect him deeply on some private level. Um, is that true, or do you know that to be true?
Uh, I don't know if he was shaken deeply. I mean, just from what he says about it, um, it doesn't seem like he was. He's in the, I didn't like the guy. He wasn't my friend. I would, if it was the other way around, I wouldn't have wanted him coming to see me.
Yeah, but I've also heard him say things like, like he couldn't envision doing music ever again after Joey died because they were in it from the beginning and that he was his brother in the Ramones and that like they were like without Joey that there was no point never doing anything in music even if they wanted to again, something like that. You never heard
Then
nothing?
I also, this interview from Marky that I'm going to send you, he says that they were, audition Steve Baters.
Get the fuck out of here.
They were, you want me to read it to you?
Get the fuck
Yeah,
out of here.
should I find it?
I mean,
I don't
you're
know
gonna
about.
send this to me. I'm doing a fucking whole deep dive video on this thing anyway. But yeah, show me where he
Yeah,
said you're telling me that Steve Bader's pre 1990 was being auditioned that they claimed that they were going to audition after. Wait a minute, and Marky is saying this after he comes back into the band sober. That's
I'm not,
insane.
yeah, I
That's
know.
an
There's some things
insane. That
that,
is so insane. That's insane.
but there was a time even before that, they were talking about Lux Interior, from the Cramps. John was, um, for whatever he says,
I this is insane. Wait, who's saying this? Marky's saying this? Allegedly? What is
Marky's saying in this interview that they were going to, that they were talking about auditioning Steve Baters, yeah. But I
oh my
heard before that, I heard them John talking about getting Lux Interior or getting somebody else.
so you had actually known that to be true.
Yeah,
That's I have never
but
heard that
I
before.
guess for the same reasons that Mark's saying they were going to audition Steve Baters because, Joey was getting sick a lot, missing shows. They had to cancel shows, and he was doing other things with other people,
Oh
side
my
projects.
God. That never would have worked. That
No,
never would have worked. In fact, you know what's funny? You know what's kind of funny, and I guess it was proven true. The two most irreplaceable members of the Ramones were Joey and Johnny. There's nobody that was going to play guitar like Johnny, and there was nobody who was going to sing like Joey.
Daniel Ray. I mean, there are some people that.
But he could. It wouldn't. It wouldn't have been the Ramones without
No, but for me,
Johnny.
it wasn't the Ramones without Dee Dee. I
Yeah,
think
but
Dee Dee was just about as irreplaceable as
yeah,
John.
no, you're 100%. He was absolutely irreplaceable. But here's the difference. Here's the difference. The difference is that Dee Dee, that he wanted out and that he kept writing for the Ramones.
Right.
Like the Ramones still had Dee Dee work like in the fold, even if he was out on the outskirts, he was still contributing, and therefore it kind of made it still feel I don't know. As a fan, I'm speaking as a fan. It didn't feel. It didn't feel. First of all, what's interesting about every single replacement that did happen in the Ramones, except, yeah, I mean, every single replacement in the Ramones almost feels like it was embraced wholly on some level. People accepted Marky. I don't know if Richie was accepted when he first came in, but it seemed like everybody embraced CJ soon after he joined the band, which probably of all the replacements would be the hardest one to replace. Who could possibly replace Dee Dee Ramone? And the fact that CJ, like, stood on his own 2 feet in the band, in whatever capacity that he did was pretty remarkable,
Yeah.
right? Like all things considered, like that kind of blows my mind.
He did it well. I mean, as well as he could.
Yeah, I mean,
For
considering that
me,
he's
for me, it just even after Tommy left, it just wasn't the same for me.
well, but you're seeing it, but you are seeing it from such a different perspective.
I,
You were seeing it from because you're seeing it. You were there from the beginning. You're there from the inception. You were there at CBGB's when it was like everybody who was in the audience was in a fucking band, and every band was like some legendary band. The audience is made up of fucking Blondie and Dead Boys and fucking Suicide and all these fucking crazy
Heads,
talking
television.
heads. Like, yeah, like you literally when you're going to go take a piss at CBGB's, you're going, excuse me, Chris Stein, oh, pardon me, Steve Vaders. Like I mean, you saw such a different perspective. I mean, if you think about it from the complete other end of the spectrum, I'm looking at the band from a perspective of like this band doesn't exist anymore. They are like an archaeological sort of timeline. And of course, you could easily say, oh, yeah, nothing's better than the original. And it's true. Like to me, if I, in my ranking of the Ramones, it's those first four records are immaculate. Like to me, they're immaculate. Road to Ruin is immaculate as well. Those records are an untouchable, immaculate perfection. And then everything else is, a mixed grab bag, patchy. That's like some stuff here, some stuff there.
Great songs. It makes
Yeah,
me.
there are lots of like for instance, like I personally Animal Boy is a hard record for me. It's just not it's not easily accessible, but Bonzo Goes to Bitburg is one of the greatest Ramon songs ever written,
Yeah. So it's
right?
Howlin' at
So,
the Moon, Something to Believe in.
oh my God, I love Howlin' at the Moon so fucking much. You know what else is a great song from an album that not a lot of people dig? Palisades Park is a great song.
Or that's not theirs.
Oh, is that a cover?
Did you ever see the Gong Show?
I know of it. I never watched it. It was before
Chuck
my time.
Barrett, the guy who was the host of it, he wrote
Um,
that song.
oh my God. Hold on. I'm looking it up on Spotify right now. I didn't know that was a freaking cover.
Chuck Barris wrote Palisades Park.
Palisades
Pretty
Park.
sure
Oh my God. I see Freddie Cannon here.
he did it.
And the Beach Boys did it too.
Did I? I never heard of that.
It seems like it was covered a lot. I'm gonna have to listen. Oh my God, you just blew my mind. I'm sitting there, I did another show on my channel where it was like the someone on Reddit did like a best, worst, and overrated
Right?
of like bands, and they were doing it for the Ramones. And so I was like, oh, that's a fun game. So I like sat there and I like went through everything. And like, again, for me, like it starts to get patchy, after Too Tough to Die is when it starts to get much more patchy for me personally as a fan.
Not the end of the
And
century.
I love End of the Century, but like, I just mean like, no, but Too Tough to Die is after End of the Century. I mean,
Right.
like, after Too Tough to Die is when, like, for me, the songs become fewer and far between, is what I mean to say. And, and that's when I was going through and I was looking on Halfway to Sanity. I was like, oh, God, I don't even know if, and then I came across Palisades Park. I was like, fuck, man, that's a great song. It really rips,
Yeah,
I mean, I endearingly love Go Little Camaro Go,
me
but
too.
not for like, I don't think it holds a candle to anything, obviously, on the first four records, but I just love it because it's so like quirky and weird. It's such a
Yeah,
strange
yeah.
song.
It's so different from the first uh, early stuff. But
Joey's voice is very interesting too, because, again, just him, I mean, obviously him as a frontman and him as a singer, he had such an interesting voice, but he really, I don't know if it was a result of his health issues or just changes, or maybe it had to do with taking substances or something. I don't know what was the issue of like his voice started to change and it started to evolve and he started to try different things in his singing.
yeah,
He started to maybe it was because the music was getting faster. By around Loco Live or whatever, they were playing faster than they had ever played. And so
five,
maybe
but
he
not
is like,
studio.
what is it?
Five, but not recording.
Right. Yes, I know. I read that in a Marky Ramone interview, and that shocked me. I was like, holy shit. I
What?
did not realize. Marky Ramone said it was recorded in a studio.
Oh no, I meant
Everything but the drums.
they started playing everything fast live,
Yes.
but not
Yes.
studio.
Yeah, but I had heard that Locos Live or something was that they re-recorded the singing and the guitar and the bass were done in the studio, and that the drums were the only thing that were kept for the live recording.
A lot of live recordings, bands do that.
But is Alive is that record done that way? Or was that actually taken? Because Dee Dee is flipping and flopping around like crazy on stage. There's no way that like I was like why I'm like watching the footage from like that was a great compilation you guys put out, whatever that thing
It's show
was.
business, right? So
Yeah, of course. But I'm watching him flop around. I'm going, there's no way that that's his. He's playing bass that good while flopping around like that. And maybe
well,
he is, but
I posted uh, um, Warthog the other night on Joey's page.
Oh, okay. When was that from?
That's what with Richie when Richie
Oh,
came.
with Richie. No. Yeah, I know that, obviously. I'm just saying, what was that a
It
live
was,
version, and what year was it
the
from?
old gray whistle test. Uh,
Oh, okay.
so Richie came in what
Yeah, he does this.
83? Yeah.
He did the what
Right.
warthog. Yeah, of course. And then Dee
Playing
Dee
drums while
sings.
he's doing that. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
he really carries the whole song on his back, Richie, kind of. But Dee Dee's playing bass while he's going.
Yeah.
He's doing pretty well. Hey,
What a guy, huh? What a character.
actually, there's a song that I wrote with Dee Dee,
Yeah.
that was kind of preceded those Endless Vacation and Warthog. It's called My Personal Revolution.
And
I'll
that
send it to you.
was what was that used for
Recorded
anything?
it like over here.
Wow.
No, it was never used for anything. But it was in that period when we wrote "Go Home Ann."
Right.
They
That's
did
when you
use
were
it.
collaborating and stuff.
And I was collaborating with Tommy. Uh, 4 songs. He wanted my band, the Rattlers, to be his backup band. This is around
Really?
1982. Yeah. And
Right. So what that that's another interesting thing. Like he left, he wanted to go into the studio more. That's what that's the common narrative. But did he ever try to? I don't really know what happened to much to him apart after he helped produce Too Tough to Die. Like what happened to him after that? Like what was he? I know he did Uncle Monk was his bluegrass group. Did he ever try and get out in front of on the stage again after that
well,
or
at this time, he wanted to.
hmm,
He had the Rattlers come in to the studio and record 4 songs with him.
wow.
And I posted a few of them.
What years were the Rattlers active from?
Um, last we were playing, we were Birdland until 1979.
Right.
And then we became the Rattlers.
And then, but when did that stop? When did the band
1987.
1987? So it was about, yeah. Hmm.
And
Interesting.
then I formed this band called Crown the Good. And my brother tried to get us a record deal. He got us a deal with Epic,
And
but
that
it
was
was,
in the early 90s or that was in
that
the
was
late 80s?
like 1989.
Oh, that was 1989.
That was
Interesting.
when he came into CBGB's and said, we were just about to go on. And I said, what's wrong? He said, Dee Dee quit. Dee Dee quit the band. He said, do you know any bass players? And I said, Wes knows a guy out in Long Island. And he says it's really good. So, and that was Chris Ford,
That was CJ.
DJ.
Wow.
Wes called him, told him about it. Then we told my brother and got them in touch with each other.
Yeah. And then he was like AWOL from the army when he did that too, right? Or something
Yeah,
like that.
something like that. The Marines. Yeah.
Crazy.
But, I sent you the little clip where he actually finally admitted that he got into he got the audition via me and somebody in my band.
Yeah. It's on the video. It's on the video. If you go watch that previous video where I dive into the document, Mickey posted it. It's in the comments below. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to pin it to the top of this video. It's the top comment now. So if you go to that thing, you can actually watch. It'll click right onto it, and you could see the clip where CJ talks about that. Interesting. Very,
Kind of
very
bizarre,
interesting.
right? Another little bizarre, ironic factor in this whole thing that
I mean,
he wouldn't have been he wouldn't have been a Ramone if it wasn't for me.
But you can't. I'm like, but that's the thing. It's like you can't help that you were just a part of this shit. Like, I mean, you're just there. Like,
my brother got me my drummer and bass player that I'm playing with now.
Now, what's interesting is, like, do you think when they claimed that they were going to audition Lux, that even Lux would even sing for the Ramones? Do you think that he would have even done that?
Well,
I know he loved the Ramones. I know he was friends with the Ramones, but would he have sang for the Ramones?
I don't know.
He wouldn't have sang for the Ramones. I
don't think
could
it
not
would have
imagine.
sounded very,
It wouldn't have worked, man. It would not. The novelty of him getting up and doing a cover with the Ramones or covering a Ramones song, fine.
Yeah.
But the idea, just in the same way that, like, you know, again, who I think he's one of the greatest fucking drummers, let alone punk rock drummers, Clem Burke, who was Elvis Ramone for 2 seconds.
Right.
Like he didn't fit in with the band either. Like it just was not.
He could have. He just, they brought him in at a moment's notice.
Yeah.
It takes a little while to,
Sure.
to get that feel, right? So,
but there's a great live Iggy Pop when he was in Iggy Pop's band in like 80 or 81, and they were doing like Soldier and like party material.
right.
And it's Clem is playing drums. And I think Ivan Krall is on guitar or bass or something. It's that band. And there's like a live show of Iggy Pop that was put out by like MVD or a bunch of places. And Clem Burke
I didn't know Clem played with Iggy.
Oh, he played with Iggy, and there's some great video of him just fucking going to town on Iggy Pop songs.
Right.
And Iggy, he's the perfect drummer for Iggy Pop because he just has, as much energy as Iggy has. Clem can match him in energy.
Right.
And there's, sorry, go ahead.
He's tasteful enough.
Yes, he is. And I'll tell you, I'm going to send you something. You've probably seen it, actually. I don't know. Maybe you haven't. There's a great recent live. No, it's from 99. It's from 99. It's Blondie doing Dreaming from 99. I think it's Dreaming. Yeah, I think it's Dreaming. And Clem's playing his drums like it's magnetic. It's just watching that guy, like it's Dreaming. I'm trying to think of how the drums go. Like when you look and you see what is involved with playing the drums for Dreaming, and it's just like, and what's so interesting about it, it's the complete opposite end of the spectrum of like what the Ramones is all about.
Most things,
right? But here's the thing, just in the way that the Ramones are so brilliant in their simplicity, this is so brilliant in its I can't say that word. Say it for me.
Intricacy?
Intricacy. Yeah, thank you. It's so brilliant in its intricacies, and like the way that he's going around that kit with doing that whatever that thing is and he stands up off his thing because he can't help but sit. He has to stand up to do it. It's so fucking great, man.
That was great. Great showman, great guy. Really.
Yeah. Just really spectacular. But again, like, I mean, I don't know, man. In a weird kind of way, you almost need a guy like CJ to replace Dee Dee, because who else could fucking replace Dee Dee Ramone? There's nobody super iconic that's going to replace Dee Dee Ramone that's going to fit, that's going to, stick out like a sore thumb.
But
you know what I mean?
Paul Ramone.
Yeah, right. He's the only other Ramone, the original, the Papa Ramone, the original Ramone.
Exactly.
And, speaking of which, going back to talking about the brilliance of Paul McCartney
You think he could have played bass in the Ramones?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a great question. I love that you asked that question.
Right.
So Paul, here's my answer for you. pre 1963 Paul McCartney, pre 1964 Paul McCartney absolutely could have fucking played bass in the Ramones, especially if it's 1960 to 1961 Paul McCartney dressed in leather
They
up
all did. The whole
on
band.
they all
Yeah.
the whole band, right? But like, you know, high on speed, like absolutely could have held it down with Johnny and Tommy or Marky, like absolutely. Now, I think, and I mean, honestly, you want to know it's crazy. I'd love to hear your thought on this. Look at a song like "She Loves You." Like in a world where the Ramones exist now, and then you go back and you listen to "She Loves You," there's something so wonderfully Ramones-esque about "She Loves You." Or you could say that "She Loves You" or that the Ramones had like early Beatles DNA or something. But I think it's the reverse. I know this is a crazy statement, but the the she loves you is Ramones-esque in this most elegant way when you
Because
listen
I
to
want to
it.
hold your hand also.
Sure, absolutely. Absolutely. And while Joey might have said you can't mess with perfection, like I think he could on those songs. Like there's a alternate universe where the Ramones did a cover album of Beatles, early Beatles tunes. Ready? Okay, here's what it would be on it. She loves you. I want to hold your hand. Um,
I
please,
saw her
please
standing
me.
there.
I saw absolutely I saw her standing there, right? I want to say it won't be long, which is like a lesser note, which I love, but I don't think that the Ramones would ever do that call response well. It would suck.
Right.
Like who would do it? Dee Dee? It
Oh,
won't be long. Yeah, 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 yeah. They're not going to do that.
they
That's not
need
going to happen.
Richie. They would need Richie for that.
Yeah, they would need Richie for that. Well, Richie would do act naturally.
Right.
No, I want to be your man. They would definitely, the Ramones would cover
Yeah.
I want to be your man so well. Oh, this is a fun game. I'm trying to think who else would, shit, what else would they, so I'm a loser,
Yeah.
which would kind of like fit in like with like Ramones, like thematic
I
something
can
or
see
other,
that. I can see
right?
that. Yeah.
I
Huh?
could totally see Joey doing I'm a loser. And what's scary and sad and morbid is that there are AI programs now that could turn out novelty versions of these songs, and it's happening all the time. So if it is already happening, I kind of want to hear somebody do that because I just want to hear what it would sound like because it's so interesting to me. But
Maybe you
like
could do it.
I can't. I don't know how to do that stuff, but I would want to see. I definitely would want to hear it. I think that. But here's the thing: Paul McCartney post 1963, sorry, 1964, would have no patience. He just wouldn't have the patience. He wouldn't. He wouldn't want. Because here's the thing: when you look at Paul's bass playing as he widens his breadth of range, he's literally subversively writing songs underneath
Right.
songs. Like if you, he's not repeating himself anymore,
Right.
especially on like by Abbey Road. He's not repeating himself. He's literally
Even before that, like on Hey Jude,
sure.
that it's just holding the note of the chord, it bam, 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 and
Yeah, dude, it's
oh,
so fucking crazy. And it's just like, it's like that guy has no patience for Blitzkrieg Bop
no,
or he's just not going to do it. But that early Paul McCartney,
I couldn't do that either. Just that, all that one
mm,
thing all the time.
all the time. And that's why when you, I think it's in Legs's book when Dee Dee's like, oh, by the time we got to this song, I knew that the set was almost over because he just was so tired of the and getting then Pinhead would come on, he'd get his teeth chipped in the microphone from,
Right.
you know, the whole thing.
It's a hazard.
It's absolutely a friggin' hazard. But to go back to Paul McCartney for a second, he would not have done he would not have been able to do that because he just by that time, if you listen to this bass under something. He's just not fucking there's a great YouTube video of somebody isolated all of Paul McCartney's bass on Abbey Road, like it's just an entire album of bass and nothing else. And it's marvelous to listen to because you just hear how you understand why he's one of the greatest living bass players
I
of all
love
time.
those things where they isolate the tracks like
I
that.
love them. Have you ever listened to John Entwistle? for Won't Get Fooled Again, or Baba O'Reilly, I think it is.
Right.
And you just his friggin' his strumming fingers are just like lightning, just brum, 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 brum. The guy was insane,
Yeah.
absolutely insane. Um, you know,
How
just
could he have played in the Ramones? I don't know.
could he have played in the Ramones? Yes. This is a fun, wow, you just invented the funnest game ever, man.
Good
We
one.
always do games on my channel. This is a fun game. Who could have held it down in the Ramones, or who couldn't have held it down in the Ramones?
Good
Or
one. Right.
that is fantastic. I would say that John probably, yes, I think he could, with just he was a crazy bastard, and I think he could have done it. He absolutely could
When
have
you
done
hear a
it.
song like Get Back, it almost has that kind of simplicity.
Hmm.
Beatles Get Back.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's a bam, bam. It's almost like a Ramon song, slow down.
But what's interesting, to go back to the idea of like this idea of like Ramones covering Beatles songs that would fit as Ramones songs, it really is amazing when you look at songs like She Loves You and like I Want to Hold Your Hand, and you just go like, holy shit. I mean, even like, you know, are you, I don't, I mean, you're familiar with the Buzzcocks, obviously. I mean,
Yeah, sure.
you look at those early Buzzcocks songs and they sound like it's like the Beatles, it's like the 64 Beatles if they had come out in the late 70s, you know what I mean? Like the things that are on like Singles Going Steady and whatnot, like those are all like,
Orgasm Addict and
oh God, so I love that. I love that
Everybody's
compilation.
Happy.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. Actually,
The Rattlers did a tour with them. I
get the fuck out of here. I did not know
played
that.
with them the East Coast tour.
Wow. That must have been a
They were
trip,
nice
man.
guys. Even Peter
Yeah.
Kelly was all right. Yeah.
What a band, man. What a band. What a songwriter he was.
The one album was it's like the Beatles album, or every song was great.
Hmm. Hmm. Truly, truly, truly. I mean, fuck, you got, man, you saw, let me ask you this. What did you remember? I'm curious to know, Iggy Pop. What was Iggy Pop like?
Uh,
Do you remember anything about
I
him?
do. I met him a few times. Um,
He had a relationship with your brother at one point too, right? Like they were friendly. They knew each other.
they
He
knew each
he's
other, but they never really hung out
mm.
together. Um,
But he was in, I mean, he was around that New York scene, and I mean,
he
he had been
was.
on the scene for 10 years already by the time that had all
We
gone.
had Birdland. We used to rehearse down at the drummer's house on Spring Street, and there was a bar next door called the Ear Inn. We used
Yeah.
to hang out in there, and Iggy comes walking in and says to us, "Which one of you guys is the smartest?" And right away, I said, "Oh man, yeah, what they say about never meet your idols." And
Yeah.
right away, my heart kind of sunk, and I just pointed at my drum. I said, "Talk to him." And he wanted somebody to get him some
Sure.
Coke or something.
Oh,
And that was my first meeting with him. And then I went to see this documentary about him, and um, I went to say hello to him, and he said, "Oh, you wrote that book?" I said, "With Joey Ramone." I said, "Yeah, you like it?" He said, "Yeah, I read it." He said, "You like it?" He said, "Well, the first half was good, but this is the first half was good, but," he said, "but you're not really a professional writer, are you?" I said, "Well, I guess I was for the first half of the
oh
book."
my God.
But you know, why say something like that to somebody?
It's not, there's no reason to say that.
Yeah,
It's kind of crazy about
kind of a
him.
dick in a way, but
Yeah, no, for sure. But I mean, like, again, it's Iggy Pop. Like, I don't like, again, like I like can't even comprehend what it would be to be in his presence in any kind of way, especially that, like, look at him now. Like, I mean, he's still around. He's
yeah,
still around, and he's still, you may be like, he may be just like saggy old leather or whatever, but like, goddamn, if he isn't doing the same thing that he was doing in 1967, he's doing the
that's the
same
energy.
fucking
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
He's there, and like, even if he's like not like the same wild child, he is up on the stage, and he's still fucking playing those goddamn songs. And you know what? I saw him when he came out with a record a few years ago. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's called Post Pop Depression. And he did it with the guy from Queens of the Stone Age. And it was it was almost like, it was like his Bowie records, man. It was just fucking, it was like Lust for Life and The Idiot. It was really good. You should give it a listen. If you're ever curious to hear it.
I've heard it, but
You've heard it. Yeah, I really liked it. But what was amazing was I went to see him at the Capitol Theater in Portchester. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Yeah, I used to go there. It's
Okay.
still there?
Sorry, say that again.
Is it still there?
Oh, it's still there. Absolutely. It's, in fact, what's his face played his last show there before he died. Phil Lesh from the Grateful Dead, because the Grateful Dead loved that place.
It was a great theater.
It's a great theater. It's got a great line of sight because it's got that ramp sort of.
Right.
You got to really see the from the stage. And I saw Iggy Pop there doing the Post Pop Depression. This is 2016. So Iggy is 69 or 70 years old, right? Something like that.
Gotta be
He
older.
is-
I'm 70.
Well, no, but he was okay. Well, he was
Oh, what you
born
mean
in.
at the time?
No, I mean at that time. Yeah, yeah. No, he was 69 or 70 years old. This is 2016, 2017, something like that. And like God bless him, he fucking at and you know, he has one leg is shorter than the other. He's got problems, man.
Everybody does.
Everybody's got problems. But like,
I mean, everybody has one leg shorter than the other.
is that true?
Yeah.
Wait, so you're saying my one of my legs is shorter than the other? But like minusculely, like
Minuscule.
microscope. Yeah.
Yeah.
He has like a
That much.
yeah, he's got a thing. He's got like wear like a club
Wear a-
foot.
Does he wear a big heel on
He
one?
wears, yes, that's what I'm saying. He has a significant difference in his thing. You could see it in his when he stands, he kind of is off to the side a little bit because of that. And what's amazing though is that at that age, you know, he fucking stage dived twice into
Really?
the crowd without abandon, Mickey, without fucking abandon. I swear to God, this fucking guy goes to the back and then he just takes a running start and jumps right off into the crowd. And I'm going, that's the fucking king right there. Like, no matter what, yes, is he an asshole or could he be an asshole or was he an asshole to you? Sure. Like, I mean, obviously, like he's also like the craziest fucking one of the craziest guys who ever lived, but he's also king of the dogs. Yeah. And he's out there fucking like at fucking 70 years old after everything he's been through.
All that.
Just fucking still stage diving the way he was in 1969. What the fuck, Mickey?
That's inspiring.
It's insane. It's fucking insane. And you know what? He didn't just do it once. He did it twice. And he's in the pit. And I'm just like, my fucking God. Like what, and you know what? There's a band I love that you should check out who are big fans of, they're big fans of punk rock. And obviously they love the Ramones and stuff. They're called Bad Nerves and they are wonderful. And I tell everybody about them. I told Cheetah about them too. I've seen them a bunch of times. Had them on my show actually. And they have a song. Sorry?
Where are they from?
They're from London. And go listen to that first record. Just listen to the first record all the way through. It will fucking melt your face off. It's so good. It's so good. It's a phenomenal. And their second record is good too, but their first record, and you know, you could see it in their branding. You could see them doing like the big block Ramones sort of like, but their sound, it's not like a Ramones sound at all. They're doing their own thing.
Right.
But man, they are turbocharged, insane, like just really good. But they have a song called Electric 88 and there's a line in there that just hit me. And obviously, you know, I'm 39 about to kiss 40 and you know, there's this line in there. I know.
Yeah.
Like, I'm young, but whatever. Like, well, I'm not young but whatever. I'm middle aged now. I'm reaching my middle age, but
I forgive you.
You forgive me. But there's a line in there that's so great. And they say, it just has stayed with me in my heart. You grow tired of growing old. I got a teenage mind. I fucking love that. I just love that. And so that's what I think of when I think of Iggy Pop. Just like being like, fuck this, fuck being like 70. I'm going to jump into
Why even think about it?
Fuck it. like just go out and, your vitality is vitality, right? I mean,
Feel it.
listen,
If you're feeling it.
right. I mean, I see you fucking out there, like, you're doing
Still
mutated
kicking.
music, you
Still
know.
kicking. Yeah.
Yeah, man, you're doing your fucking thing. I should be so fortunate and lucky, that's my aspiration,
Well,
right?
work
So
work
you got
at
to
it.
do it. I'm going to. I'm not talking about the music per se. I just mean just never stop doing, just to
Right.
keep going, right? In that kind of way. It is so fucking late and I really have to go to bed. This was
Thank
so much
you.
fun.
Thanks, Jeff. We could continue if
I
you
would
like.
love to continue. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to read the book. Let me read the book
Yeah.
again. And we'll do something a little bit more structured and maybe go a little bit more chronological or in sitting and speaking with you throughout this whole process, like really sitting and speaking with you. I really do. I don't think it's fair. I really don't think it's fair. I just don't think it's fair because for all the reasons I stated in the thing, I stated everything. Like, like it really isn't, it's not right. You,
No,
you, you have,
it's like taking away my freedom of speech.
no, you have a right. You have a right to what you're doing, like 150%. I wasn't sure when I was reading some of what CJ was saying and like he was, the idea of like right of publicity. I'm like, well, wait a minute. Like, what? How does this affect like a Ramones biopic? And like, I am completely 100% changed my mind because just from all the different things we discussed in this thing. I don't have to repeat them here. We already discussed it, but like I really do understand and empathize in the same way that Cheetah helped me to see his side that I wasn't seeing. And I was actually quite frustrated with like what was happening in that situation, but I didn't have the information.
Right.
So it was very good.
That's the thing, man. A little bit of misinformation can start a whole fucking.
Yeah, ain't that the truth, man? Ain't
Right.
that the truth?
Thank
Hey,
you, buddy.
yep.
All
Bye.
right. Be good.
Okay, we have reached the end of the line, but just for now. You know why? Because Mickey is coming back and he's bringing Dave Frey, his manager and friend, along for the ride with him. And we're going to continue to discuss all things Ramones, all of their challenges, some of the things that they are dealing with currently in Ramones' world. I promise you it is going to be an illuminating, thoughtful, interesting discussion about all things Ramones related. You might find it interesting. You might find it frustrating. Who knows where your mind will land, but you should definitely check it out. It's going to be here on this channel. I'm going to have Mickey and Dave, and we are going to be talking so much Ramones. It's going to have Ramones coming out of your ears, coming out of your nose, coming out of your mouth. Blech. So come back, join us. We'll see you there. In the meantime, as always, peace, hair grease, ha cha 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 cha.